Chapter 1001 The School Beauty's Mom. Failure is what always runs through life, isn't it? Chen Mo tilted his head and drank the last bottle of wine, his eyes staring blankly at the dark night sky. A fatal backstabbing by a company partner. A company that went bankrupt after expending all his efforts. The goddess he pursued for 20 years, whose phone number he couldn't get through after bankruptcy. He had nothing left. These were the tragic experiences of Chen Mo's life over the past 30 years that flashed through his mind before he lost consciousness. Death from alcohol poisoning, that's a kind of relief, isn't it? Chen Mo's consciousness became increasingly blurred, until he lost consciousness and his mind became a void. He didn't know how long it had been. Suddenly, the voice of a mature and charming woman screaming in panic sounded. Chen Mo suddenly opened his eyes. The first scene that entered his eyes was a scene that made his blood boil. A man stopped a woman wearing a black slim-fit suit. The woman had a mature and plump figure, especially as she was wearing slim-fit trousers, which showed off the charm of a mature woman. No wonder this mature woman is so charming, she'll have men falling all over themselves to get her attention. She's lethal to men of all ages. Wait a minute, she looks familiar. Su Qingxue? Her mother? She's been chasing after the school beauty queen for 20 years? Wait, no, her mother looks so young. What's going on? Chen Mo looked at the mature beauty, who was angrily rebuking the greasy middle-aged man, in disbelief. Am I dreaming? Pop. Suddenly there was a loud slap. For some reason the mother of the school beauty slapped the greasy middle-aged man. This slap also completely angered the greasy middle-aged man, who pointed at the woman and cursed. Su Yun, don't you dare to refuse. I'll play you to death. Ah! Help! Su Yun immediately shouted for help. Help! Su Yun seemed to have seen Chen Mo not far away, her beautiful eyes full of pitifulness. Although Su Qingxue was not a good person, her mother had always been very good to her. Moreover, her mother later started her own business and succeeded, so she was an extremely capable woman. Unexpectedly, she was in such a miserable situation. Chen Mo frowned, and he casually picked up a brick from the curb. The greasy man seemed to sense something wrong, and subconsciously turned his head to take a look. He was about to touch the hand that had touched Su Yun's mature body, but he stopped. He looked at Chen Mo, who looked indifferent, with no emotion in his eyes. In particular, the brick in his hand made his heart tremble. The thing to fear in a fight is meeting this kind of reckless young man who doesn't care about his life. We're just a couple fighting, it's none of your business. The greasy man tried to fool Chen Mo. Unfortunately, Chen Mo knew all about Su Qingxue's family situation. Her mother, Su Yun, had always been single, and the men around her all coveted her, but no one was able to win her heart. Chen Mo? Su Yun also recognized Chen Mo at this time. After all, the distance between the two families was only 2 streets. Plus, Chen Mo often appeared by Su Qingxue's side, so naturally Su Yun knew him. Chen Mo nodded in agreement, raising the brick in his hand. Seeing that the two knew each other, the greasy man panicked. Looking at the brick Chen Mo held up, he cursed and immediately ran away. Halfway through his run, he turned back and yelled at Su Yun, "Su Yun, you're fired. What the fuck are you playing at, pretending to be innocent? Bam! Get out of here!" The brick in Chen Mo's hand smashed directly at him, cutting off the middle-aged greasy man's words. The greasy middle-aged man ran very quickly and disappeared in an instant. Chen Mo turned his head to look at Su Yun at this time. "Auntie Su, are you okay?" Her eyes were slightly red, and she shook her head and whispered, "I'm fine, thank you." Chen Mo. Su Yun suddenly let out a cry of pain, and her body leaned to one side. Chen Mo immediately supported her. "Auntie Su, what's wrong with you?" "My foot, I sprained my foot." Su Yun's delicate and pretty eyebrows were tightly knitted. She was wearing a pair of black high heels, not very high, but they went well with her business lady suit. She probably wasn't used to wearing them, and her foot twisted as she walked quickly. "Can you still walk?" "No, I can't." Su Yun tried to take a step, but the pain made her shake her head. Chen Mo looked left and right. It was already night, and there were very few cars or pedestrians. Then there was no other way. Chen Mo crouched down in front of Su Yun. Su Yun looked at the young and handsome guy kneeling in front of her. Her heart inexplicably skipped a beat, and she took a gentle breath, whispering, "I'd rather go on my own." But as soon as she took a step, her body tilted directly, and she let out a startled cry. Ah! Chen Mo was quick-eyed and quick-handed, catching her with one hand, so Su-yun just happened to fall onto his back. Cough. Su-yun's beautiful oval face couldn't help but slowly warm up. Chen Mo knew that they couldn't continue to stand there, so he immediately got up and quickly walked ahead with Su-yun on his back. From this place to Su-yun's house, it was almost 3 kilometers away. The silence between the two of them felt a little awkward. Auntie Su, how old are you? Huh? Chen Mo's sudden question made Su-yun pause for a moment. Why is this child concerned about her age? A woman's age is a secret that cannot be spoken of, especially after the age of 30. You want to ask how old Qingxue is, don't you? Su-yun subconsciously felt that Chen Mo had said the wrong thing. Chen Mo actually meant to diffuse the awkward atmosphere, and casually asked to find out what year it was. Qingxue is 18 years old, you are classmates, so you should be the same age, right? Su Qingxue is 18 years old. It's actually 18 years ago. 2023, 18 years ago, so now it's 2005. Chen Mo's heart was shaking. A lot happened that year. Old Chen, who adopted him, passed away. He took the college entrance exam. He confessed to Su Qingxue but failed. The family's old shop, which had been open for more than 10 years, was sold at a low price, and he went on to university. And his future path was basically set in this year. Chen Mo? Chen Mo! Su-yun shouted in Chen Mo's ear. Chen Mo instantly came to his senses and could smell the faint body odor of a mature woman on Su-yun. Ha! Well, I'm the same age as Qingxue. Right, you're going to the school today to collect your acceptance letter, right? You got in, didn't you? Yes, I did. Chen Mo's college entrance exam results were not bad, and he really had to thank Su Qingxue for that. In order to be worthy of her, Chen Mo studied hard and got into the same university as Su Qingxue. But even if they got into the same university, what's the point? Every day, he was like a dog licking her feet, but she still treated him indifferently. Even if he finally got her, Su Qingxue was still unwilling. Chen Mo never wants to experience this kind of life again. Stay away from Su Qingxue, stay away from the good brothers in partnership who stab him in the back, and stay away from these people. Since he has the opportunity to start over, he will live a good, free, and carefree life. Ding! Chapter 2002, Walking the School Flower's Mother Home. Chen Mo was momentarily stunned as he heard the crisp beep sound in his head. Employee system? Employee system, a system that helps the host recruit employees, dominate the business world, and reach the pinnacle of life. Recruit employees? Yes, the host only needs to recruit outstanding employees to receive generous rewards. The system is connected to the host's thoughts, and this is a basic function of the system. Chen Mo. Next, I will explain to the host that recruiting employees of different levels will result in different rewards. Employees of different levels? Yes, employees will be comprehensively scored based on 5 aspects: appearance, body type, temperament, ability, and potential. Employees with a score below 60 will not receive any rewards. Employees with a score of 60 to 69 will receive bronze-level employee rewards. 70 to 79 points will receive the silver-level employee award. 80 to 84 points will receive the gold-level employee award. 85 to 89 points will receive the diamond-level employee award. 90 to 94 points will receive the master-level employee award. 95 to 99 points will receive the grandmaster-level employee award. 100 points will receive the king-level employee award. Chen Mo listened to this ranking and felt like he had gone back in time to when he was playing 101 in King. What kind of perfect person would a secretary need to be to get a score of 100? For some reason, Chen Mo had high expectations for such a person. So Chen, did you go to the same university as Qingxue? Well, it's okay if it's not the same university. You've been classmates for so many years and have a deep friendship. You can contact each other more often when you're on vacation. Su-yun thought Chen Mo was devastated and softly comforted him. At the same time, Chen Mo also received the system's first task. Ding! Main life task: please recruit the first secretary in your life. Secretary score requirement 60 points or above, reward 10,000 points. Host, Chen Mo. Age, 18 years old. Education, high school. Physical fitness, 6 points, average. Charm, 6 points, average. Skills, none. Fame, minus 99. Wealth, 1 yuan, 678,532 in Xinjiang County. Secretary, none. Chen Mo glanced at his personal information and raised an eyebrow slightly. With a value of 1 yuan, he was actually ranked over 670,000th in the entire county. Ding, completed task, become the richest person in Xingyang County, reward 10,000 points, title, the richest person in Xingyang County, title attribute charm plus 50, points can be exchanged for any item in the system mall. Chen Mo has a basic understanding of this system. With this powerful boost, Chen Mo is suddenly full of expectations for the future. Chen, Auntie's here. Suyun's voice pulled Chen Mo's thoughts back to reality. Chen Mo glanced at the old building. Auntie Su, you live on the 4th floor, right? Auntie Su, I'd better go on my own. Auntie Su, you're here now, don't be embarrassed, let me do the rest. Chen Mo carried Su Yun on his back and walked straight up the stairs. Luckily, it wasn't early yet. The neighbors were all eating dinner and watching TV at home. Su Yun's pretty oval face was buried behind Chen Mo's neck, afraid of being seen. Chen Mo walked quickly upstairs. The bigger her steps, the more Su Yun on her back blushed uncontrollably. Her mature body was uncontrollably hot. Especially Chen Mo's body exuding the hormones of a young boy, making her feel like she was 18 years old for a moment. Phew, here it is. Chen Mo stopped at the door of the first household on the 4th floor. Chen, you've worked hard. Su Yun said softly, took out the key from her bag, and opened the door. The living room in the house was lit up, and someone was home. Chen, come in quickly and have a drink of water. Su Yun said warmly, looking at Chen Mo, who was standing in the doorway. Auntie Su, no, I'll go home first. You're sweating, come in and wipe your face and have a drink of water. Su Yun would feel bad if she let Chen Mo go like this. If it weren't for Chen Mo's appearance, she might really have been taken advantage of by Baldy Zhou. Besides, she must have been tired after carrying him all the way. Facing Su Yun's enthusiasm, Chen Mo could not refuse anymore, and could only help her into the house. Xingxue, quickly, pour Chen Mo a glass of water. After Su Yun entered the house, her ankle still hurt, so she could only sit in a chair and call Su Qingxue inside the house. Mom? Su Qingxue heard the voice and walked out. As soon as she came out, she saw Su Yun and Chen Mo next to her. At the sight of Chen Mo, her eyebrows furrowed, and her eyes naturally revealed indifference and impatience. Chen Mo, what do you want in my house? I told you, it's impossible for us. Can you stop being so persistent? And you even came to my house, how annoying. Su Qingxue's tone was cold, and she pointed at the door that hadn't closed yet. Please leave immediately. Chen Mo was momentarily stunned, and then shook her head, revealing a relieved smile. She was still the same person. It's just that, at this moment, she is no longer the Chen Mo who was so humble in front of Su Qingxue. What are you laughing at? Su Qingxue felt her authority offended by Chen Mo's relieved smile. Now, get out. Qingxue, what are you doing? How can you speak to Chen Mo like that? Su Yun was shocked by Su Qingxue's rudeness, and when she came to her senses, she immediately scolded and stopped her. Chen Mo was not here to see you. Not looking for me? Huh? Then who was he looking for at our house so late at night, you? Qingxue, you really are something. Auntie Su, sorry for the disturbance. Chen Mo didn't bother to explain, and after saying that, he turned around and left. He didn't want to have anything more to do with Su Qingxue. Hey, Chen Mo, hey, this kid. Su Yun looked at the back of Chen Mo's departing figure, full of loneliness and desolation. For a moment, her heart inexplicably ached for him. Mom, don't let him fool you. I know his mind. Su Qingxue, that's enough. Su Yun glared at Su Qingxue, her heart burning with anger. You're really something, scolding people without knowing the whole story. Chen Mo, do you know why he came to our house? Your mother was being bullied, and he helped her out of it. Your mother twisted her ankle and couldn't walk, so he carried her all the way home, 3 kilometers, without saying a word of complaint. After finally getting him home, I invited him in for a glass of water. Is that too much to ask? And you? As soon as you came out, you lashed out at someone with a torrent of sarcastic remarks. Isn't that a bit much? One shouldn't be so self-righteous. Su Qingxue was speechless and blushed when Su Yun said this. Chapter 3003 Only 3 Things to Do. Chen Mo left Su Qingxue's home and went downstairs to the old alley. The street lamps in the old alley were a little dim. Chen Mo's shadow was stretched very long. He turned two corners and came to an old street with many small shops. In the center of the street was an old three-story building. On the first floor of this building was an old retail store that had been open for 18 years. The signboard read the 5 words, Old Street Supermarket. It was the same age as Chen Mo. 18 years ago, the old man Chen Hanzhong and his daughter-in-law Yi Shuhui opened the retail store for the first time. Yi Shuhui, who had just opened the shop's door, noticed a swaddled baby in the doorway. Her heart leapt, and she quickly went over to pick up the baby. She discovered that it was a baby boy, who was not crying and was looking at her with sparkling eyes. Yi Shuhui's heart, full of maternal love, was instantly captured. The appearance of Chen Mo took the old couple by surprise. Because they had been married for more than 20 years, they had no children. Up to this point, Chen Mo had also thrived in the love and care of the elderly couple. 2 months before Chen Mo's college entrance exam, Chen Mo's father passed away due to illness. Yi Shuhui also had no heart to manage the large store that had developed to cover nearly 300 to 400 square meters, and planned to sell the store. Chen Mo remembered that the store was sold at a very low price, and later Yi Shuhui regretted it. She did not regret selling the store at a low price, but regretted selling the place where she and Chen Mo had worked hard together and experienced the joys and sorrows of life. "Hey, isn't that Chen Mo? You're back so late, your mom is waiting for you." A middle-aged man walked down the stairs, greeted Chen Mo with a springtime smile. He looked honest, but his eyes betrayed his shrewdness. His name was Fu Limin, Chen Mo's right-hand man. He had been in charge of the store's inventory, which was said to be a lucrative position. The store was to be sold to him. Chen Mo later learned that when he was managing the store, he had understated the inventory of goods by a lot, and the prices were also wrong. But at that time, Yi Shuhui had no interest in checking the accounts and just let him report the numbers. Chen Mo only hated himself for only thinking about how to please Su Qingxue at that time. Since he was doing it all over again, Li Min would never be able to take advantage of this cheat again. And he would not let Yi Shuhui regret it. Chen Mo thought of the person who loved him unconditionally, and suddenly he took 4 steps at once, and in the blink of an eye he had rushed up to the 3rd floor. The door at home was open. A haggard-looking woman stood in the doorway. Yi Shuhui could always hear Chen Mo's footsteps, and whenever she was home, she would open the door for him in advance. This scene was incredibly familiar. In the last life, after Chen Mo graduated from university, Yi Shuhui also passed away. He never had the chance to see the person waiting for him at the door again. Chen Mo looked at her and felt an indescribable stirring in his heart. He walked up quickly, embraced her tightly and whispered, "Mom." "Huh? What's wrong with you today, Mo?" "Nothing, I just want to hug you." "Silly boy." Yi Shuhui started her usual nagging again. Until she saw Chen Mo's admission notice. "Son. Shanghai University? That's great." Yi Shuhui was overjoyed and took the admission notice, hugging Chen Mo tightly. "Mom, let's eat first." "Okay." Chen Mo sat down at the table, smiling as he watched Yi Shuhui, who kept talking while she kept on serving him food. "What are you looking at? Eat." Yi Shuhui snapped at Chen Mo's chopsticks. "You're right, I'm hungry." Chen Mo buried his head in his rice, eating like crazy. "Eat slowly, don't choke, drink some water." Yi Shuhui couldn't help but smile warmly as she watched Chen Mo. Chen Mo took a sip of water and said casually, "Mom, I ran into Fu Limin downstairs." "What's he doing here?" Yi Shuhui's expression darkened a little. "Mom wants to sell our shop to him." Chen Mo put down his chopsticks and looked at Yi Shuhui seriously. "Mom, why do you want to sell the shop? Is it because of Chen Lao?" Yi Shuhui paused in her chopstick movements and then said slowly, "That's one reason, and another is that our business isn't as good as it used to be. And I'm tired of running the store all these years, so I want to sell it and take a break." Chen Mo nodded and looked Yi Shuhui seriously in the eye. "Mom, don't sell the store yet. Look, I'm going to college in 2 months, so can I try running the store for those 2 months?" Yi Shuhui looked at Chen Mo in surprise. "You want to try?" Chen Mo, yes. He never asked about the store before. Why is he suddenly interested today? Chen Mo is 18 years old and considered an adult, so he needs some practice. It's not a big deal if the store is sold in these 2 months. Yi Shuhui picked up a piece of meat and put it in Chen Mo's bowl, and after thinking for a moment, she said, "Then you can try." Since Qin Sheng passed away, Yi Shuhui has let go of everything. That's why she was able to directly take over the supermarket in her previous life. Chen Mo beamed, thanks, Mom. You're eating neat too. You've lost a lot of weight lately. That night, Chen Mo didn't fall asleep until very late, for fear that everything would turn out to be a dream. The next day, Chen Mo woke up early, and when he opened his eyes, he found that he was still lying in the old house, which made him feel very at ease. 7 o'clock. Chen Mo quickly got dressed, opened the door, and went to wash up. The store usually opened at 8. Yi Shui looked at the early riser Chen Mo with some surprise. Since the college entrance exam was over, Chen Mo usually didn't get up until 10 o'clock. Mom, you just take me to meet the people. Okay. Yi Shui really wanted to see what kind of mess her usually lazy son had made of the store. After Chen Mo finished washing up, he followed Yi Shui downstairs to the store, which had not yet opened. After a while, people gradually arrived. There were a total of 7 people in the store. 2 cashiers, 4 waitresses, and a manager in charge, also known as Fu Limin. Sister Yi, you're here. A middle-aged woman with a rather plump appearance greeted Yi Shui with a smile. Oh, our little Mo is here too. What would you like to eat? Su Weiping, call everyone over for a moment. Yi Shui still had a rather bossy aura in front of outsiders. In no time, everyone gathered at the opening next to the cash register. Fu Limin wore a delighted smile on his face. He thought Yi Shui had come to tell everyone about taking over the restaurant first. Yi Shui saw that everyone was there and said directly, I do have something to tell everyone today. From now on, you don't need to come to me for anything related to the restaurant. Everyone was taken aback and looked at her in surprise. What do you mean, Yi? Wang Suweiping asked, a little panicked. She had only attended primary school and could barely read or write. It had not been easy for her to find this job. Plus, the store treated them well, paying them almost 1,000 yuan a month. It wasn't much, but it was not a small amount in this county. Many people in the neighborhood envied them for this job. If they lost this job, Wang Suweiping and the others would have a hard time finding another one like it. Boss, we will work hard, so please don't fire us. Yes, our 4 children depend on my salary. Fu Limin, who was standing nearby, looked at the frightened group and laughed confidently. Sister Yi is not going to fire you. Yi Shui stepped aside and said to Chen Mo, from now on, you will be in charge of the store. If anyone has any questions, they should ask you. The group looked at Yi Shui in disbelief, and then turned to Chen Mo. Fu Limin, in particular, was doubtful that he had heard correctly. Wasn't the store going to be handed over? I've already hidden all the goods. What do you mean, you're letting this immature Chen Mo take over? Fu Limin thought for a moment, and then smiled again. Isn't it better to deal with this young kid who knows nothing? But then Chen Mo said something that made his face fall. I'll only do 3 things when I take over. Chapter 4004 Women Who Came Upon the Wind. First, all accounts must be handed over to me for verification. Second, all purchase prices must go through me. Third, all product prices must be set by me. Before Chen Mo could finish, Fu Limin stood up, red in the face. What do you mean by this, Xiao Mo? Nothing, just standardizing operations. Standardizing operations? I think you're just targeting me. I've been here for years, don't you know who I am? Fu Limin was furious, and after he finished, he looked at Yi Shui for confirmation. Yi Shui gave a bland smile and didn't say anything. Chen Mo calmly said, no matter who it is, they have to follow the procedures I've laid down. No one gets special treatment. Fu Limin gave a cold smile and said, it seems like it's really directed at me. Fine, I quit. After he said that, he directly threw down the purchase order in his hand and turned to leave. Uncle Fu, wait a minute. I'll have someone come and reconcile your accounts with you in due course. Come at me all you want, I'm waiting. Fu Limin looked disdainful and kicked over the trash can next to him. They say that the new official sets 3 fires when he takes office, and Chen Mo's first fire burned Fu Limin. When the others looked at Chen Mo again, they immediately lost their airs as elders. Xiao Mo, no, boss, if you have anything to do, just tell us and we'll do it beautifully. Wang Suweiping said with a face full of solicitude. Don't say that, I do have one thing to trouble everyone with. Chen Mo coughed lightly. I'll write a job posting and post it outside the store. A job posting? What are we hiring for? The others looked at Chen Mo curiously. Chen Mo looked at them and said, "Secretary, Auntie, do you know anyone suitable you can introduce?" Secretary? What are the requirements? They all knew that the store's treatment had always been good, and if they had the opportunity, their family members would definitely be willing to come here. But does our store really need a secretary? But it's not their business. As long as there's a salary and it's not illegal, why should they care? Chen Mo mused. First, high school diploma. Ha! This requirement alone made the ants' mouths drop wide open. They had only finished elementary school or at most junior high school. There were very few high school students in their generation. Second, at least 1.65 meters tall. Well, that's about it. Oh, and the most important thing is that she must be a woman. Without mentioning the third point, the first two requirements alone would be enough to stump the ants. They thought about the people around them and almost none of them qualified. How much is the salary? Anne Zhang, who was in charge of the cash register, asked in a low voice. When it came to salary, everyone became interested. Chen Mo thought for a moment. 2,000. Ah? 2,000. The ants suspected they had heard it wrong and looked at each other in shock. 2,000 yuan, that's a huge sum of money. They had never heard of anyone earning 2,000 yuan a month. Chen Mo said with a serious face, "If you do a good job and are capable, after the 1-month trial period, you will earn 3,000 yuan a month." Wow! The ants couldn't help but be shocked. 3,000 yuan a month, that's a scary salary. Even Fu Limin, who had just left, only earned 1,500 yuan a month. Chen Mo was really a spendthrift to offer 2,000 to 3,000 yuan a month. Yi Shuwei, who had been silent, kept quiet. She had doubts in her heart. Was this secretary really worth so much? However, since she had decided to let Chen Mo take full responsibility, she would not interfere. Okay, ants, spread the word for me. After Chen Mo finished speaking, he wrote a job advertisement himself, moved a table, and walked to the front of the store. He pasted the job advertisement in front of the table, pulled a chair over, and sat down. On-site recruitment. Xiao Mo is starting to recruit people already? I still want to go home and ask my sister-in-law. Li Ping, didn't your daughter graduate from college this year? Wang Suweiping looked over at Auntie Li, who was working the register. Auntie Li looked a little anxious. Yes, my daughter and Chen Mo were classmates, but I'm working, so I can't go back and tell her. Wang Suweiping gave her a tip, just take some time off. Chen Mo will definitely let you go. Auntie Li thought about it and immediately walked over to Chen Mo, who was sitting at the table, and asked in a low voice. Chen Mo, do you think my daughter Lulu is qualified? Chen Mo was momentarily taken aback. Lulu? Lilu? Yes. Auntie Li nodded repeatedly. A tall, oval-faced girl appeared in Chen Mo's mind. To be honest, Lilu is not bad-looking, with long legs and a height of nearly 1.7 meters. You can give it a try. Chen Mo couldn't agree right away. After all, it also depends on the system's score. Then I'll take a leave of absence and go get her right now. Auntie Li looked at Chen Mo expectantly. Okay. Chen Mo also wanted to complete the task early. After all, the rewards were very generous. Just the 10,000 points reward alone. It was enough to buy many things Chen Mo wanted. Chen Mo had looked through the items in the system store last night. 1,000 points could buy the entire upgraded version of the KFC industry chain. 5,000 points could buy the mysterious body enhancement pill. 10,000 points could even buy all kinds of novel research and development for the next 10 years. Many of these things could accelerate the development of the entire era. Chen Mo urgently needed to complete his first main task. Hey, Chen Mo, what's written on the board this morning? Before long, many people gathered around the table Chen Mo had set up. Most of them were neighbors from the neighborhood. Looking for a secretary? What does his supermarket need a secretary for? Shu Wei, too, has spoiled this boy too much. Oh, the trial period pays 2,000 yuan a month. The salary instantly surprised the neighbors. After the shock, they wondered if they themselves could be hired. They asked about the requirements for the secretary position. But as soon as they heard that the requirements were a high school degree, at least 5 feet 5 inches in height, and a woman with a pleasant appearance, they all gave up. They couldn't help but give Chen Mo a nickname, spoiled brat. Chen's parents' decades-old business was probably going to fail because of this brat. Everyone was talking about the prodigal son, but at the same time they were immediately shaking people to come and apply for the job. In less than half an hour, more than a dozen women were lined up in front of Chen Mo. There were younger ones in their late teens and early 20s, slightly more mature older sisters in their early 30s, and aunties in their 40s who still had a bit of charm left. It had to be said, money really does work. Everyone, don't worry, one at a time. Just as Chen Mo was busy interviewing female secretaries, several young female students in their late teens and early 20s came in. One of them stood out in particular, and she was top-notch in terms of looks, figure, and temperament. It was none other than Chen Mo's former goddess, Su Qingxue. Chapter 5005, a diamond-level secretary. Qingxue, it really is Chen Mo. I thought you were looking for a summer job. Let's go take a look. Lulu, what did your mom say the salary was per month? 2,000 yuan for the trial period, and 3,000 yuan per month after that. 3,000 yuan. No way, I'm going to try out for it. I heard that the height requirement is 165 centimeters or above. Then only Lulu and Qingxue meet that requirement. Qingxue, you go for it, Chen Mo will definitely hire you on the spot. Yes, everyone knows how Chen Mo likes Qingxue. Su Qingxue couldn't help but smile, but when she thought about what happened last night, she felt a little upset. She tilted her head and said coldly, he wants to hire me, but I don't want to go. Qingxue, don't waste such a good opportunity. Chen Mo is obviously offering you money, and you don't want it. Exactly, your mom just happened to lose her job, right? What about your college tuition? Su Qingxue couldn't help but feel a little tempted when she heard what they were saying. Yes, mom quit her job, so what about your tuition? This secretary makes 2,000 yuan a month for the trial period. If you work for 2 months, it's basically enough for college tuition and living expenses. If you don't go, then the secretary will probably go to Lilu. The girl next to her said. This, and instantly Su Qingxue couldn't hold herself back. Qingxue, give it a try, let's go. The girl took Su Qingxue by the arm and quickly walked into the crowd. At this time, Chen Mo was seen taking notes on paper, remembering the information of the interviewee. He was very fast, because he had the help of the secretarial system. Detection, name Zhang Hui, age 28. Score, appearance 65, body 75, temperament 70, ability 64, potential 66, overall score 68 points. Bronze level secretary. Chen Mo wrote 68, bronze, after her name. A score of 60 or above is required to enter the selection process. Zhang Hui is quite good, and she currently has the highest score among all the candidates. In the previous dozen or so, there were only 3 scores of 60, and the highest score was 64. Xiao Mo, our Lulu is here. Auntie Li came up to Chen Mo with a smile. Chen Mo looked up and smiled. Oh, there are so many people. Here, I'll go join the line. Li Lu immediately nodded and walked with long strides to the back of the line. Why is Lulu back in line? A female classmate who had walked over with Su Qingxue asked in puzzlement. Li Lu glanced at Su Qingxue and said, there are too many people, let's line up together in an orderly manner. Su Qingxue looked coldly at the crowd lining up and then at Chen Mo, who was busy taking notes. A trace of pride flashed in her eyes. Over the years, she had been treated like a dog. If she said she was willing to try this position, then no one else would stand a chance. Chen Mo will unconditionally give her the position. But Su Qingxue was also a little wary. This secretary, Chen Mo, wouldn't be thinking of doing anything naughty to her, would he? But he wouldn't dare. Su Qingxue knew the weight she carried in Chen Mo's heart. With just a glance, she could make Chen Mo unable to move. Su Qingxue tilted her face slightly, like a proud swan walking towards Chen Mo. Auntie Jiang, thank you. Chen Mo smiled and saw off a mature auntie in her 40s. He looked up and saw Su Qingxue walking towards him, and his eyes couldn't help but narrow slightly. He then continued to bow his head and register the information of the next person. Su Qingxue came to Chen Mo's side. Chen Mo smiled and looked at the woman in front of him and said, Sister, what is your surname? Lin, right? What is your education level? Junior high school? I'm sorry, we are not recruiting from junior high school for the time being. Thank you. I'm sorry. Su Qingxue watched Chen Mo dismiss one person after another, but he seemed to have not seen her as he continued to interview the next person. She suppressed the anger rising in her heart. Chen Mo. Chen Mo stopped writing and didn't even look at her, saying, if you're here for an interview, please wait in line. What did you say? Chen Mo's attitude, coupled with his words, instantly made Su Qingshue's anger boil over. She was even a little incredulous, unable to believe that Chen Mo dared to say those words to her. How dare he? Chen Mo said with a serious face, did I not make myself clear? Then let me say it again. If you are here for an interview, please line up and come in order. Everyone's time is precious. If it's a personal matter, then please come back to see me after I'm done. Su Qingxue took a deep breath and gritted her teeth. Fine, Chen Mo. I only spoke to you a little last night, didn't I? Ha, I never realized before that you were so narrow-minded. It's really disgusting. After venting her anger, Su Qingxue immediately turned around proudly and left. Hey, Qingxue, why are you leaving? Did Chen Mo promise to hire you? The female classmate looked at Su Qingxue, who had a difficult expression on her face, with a puzzled expression. Su Qingxue said in a tone of utter disgust, disgusting, who would be stupid enough to work as a secretary for someone like Chen Mo? The remaining female students looked at each other, a little at a loss. What's going on? Li Lu looked at Su Qingshue's cold and arrogant back with a complex expression. Meanwhile, Chen Mo couldn't help but be slightly surprised. Su Qingshue's score was really high. Detection, name Su Qingxue, age 18. Score, appearance 91, body 88, temperament 90, ability 80, potential 82, overall score, 86.2 points. Diamond level secretary. Hint, there is still room for improvement. Diamond level secretary. It has to be said that Su Qingxue is outstanding in every way, far exceeding the average person. In this county, she is truly a rare beauty. But this woman, you must stay away from. Now and in the future. Chen Mo continued to record the information of the interviewees. So far, none of them have scored more than 70 points. Except for Su Qingxue just now. I wonder how generous the reward for her diamond-level performance will be. Chen Mo was tempted, but as soon as he thought about the nature of this woman, he immediately gave up the idea. His eyes glanced over the crowd and landed on Li Lu. Li Lu should score 70 points. As each interview finished, Chen Mo had already recorded nearly 50 people in his notebook. The highest score still hadn't broken 70 points. Chen Mo felt a little regretful, and finally it was Li Lu's turn. Chen Mo. Li Lu called out with a gentle voice, with a smile on her face. Chen Mo smiled and nodded. Name? Li Lu answered seriously, Li Lu, 18 years old. Height 172 centimeters, education, high school graduate. 1.72 meters. Chen Mo couldn't help but glance at her figure. Her legs were indeed very long. And they were also very straight. At the same time, the system's rating of Li Lu also appeared in his mind. Li Lu's rating, appearance 78, figure 82, temperament 79, ability 76, potential 85, overall score 79.8 points. Silver level secretary. Hint, there is still room for improvement. 0.2 points short. That's gold level. Chen Mo couldn't help but sigh for Li Lu, unfortunately. But fortunately, she still has room for improvement and can be trained well. She should be able to reach 80 points soon. She will reach the level of a gold level secretary. Chapter 6006, hired secretary to turn things around? Okay, go home and wait for news. Chen Mo finished registering Li Lu's information, and it was already noon. Time really flies. It's a good thing there's a canopy outside to keep the sun off. There are still a few people in line. Chen Mo doesn't want to end it at this time, after all, the others have been waiting in line for a long time. But the scores of the few people behind are not very high. The highest overall score was only 62 points. Have some water. Chen Mo was momentarily taken aback when he saw the water suddenly handed over to him, and looked up to see Li Lu. Thanks, why haven't you left yet? Chen Mo smiled and accepted the water, the cap still unscrewed. Chen Mo looked at Li Lu with slight surprise in his heart. Sister Lu, you're not thinking of going through the back door, are you? Li Lu's face suddenly turned red, and she hurriedly explained, who's going through the back door? It was my mother who told me to give it to you. Chen Mo smiled and nodded. Actually, I have carefully reviewed all the candidates, and on the whole, your score is currently the best. Li Lu couldn't help clenching her lips, afraid that her mouth would turn up. She looked at Chen Mo with her bright eyes, waiting for him to continue. I'll see if anyone else comes in the afternoon, and let you know as soon as possible. Chen Mo finished, and waved the water in his hand. Thank you for the water. Li Lu was slightly disappointed. But Chen Mo was right to do so. After all, it was a bit hasty to make a decision in just one morning. But in fact, she herself wasn't sure if she was qualified for the position. The trial period was only 2,000 yuan a month. It must be very difficult to do the job, right? On the other side, Yi Shui came to call Chen Mo back upstairs for dinner. Lulu, how did it go? Auntie Li immediately ran over and asked when she saw Chen Mo go upstairs. Li Lu shook her head slightly. You didn't get it? Aunt Li's voice unconsciously raised an octave. It was as if she were talking about her daughter getting married. Aunt Li couldn't help but scold, You good for nothing. You didn't even get the interview, and you had to buy someone water. You're getting your hopes up for nothing. Go back downstairs and cook dinner for your brother. At this moment, Chen Mo, who had walked up to the second floor, quietly watched the scene unfold downstairs. Unconsciously, the image of Li Lu passing him water came to mind. Her bright, clean eyes were so beautiful. Chen Mo looked at the tall and slender back of Li Lu as she walked away. Her ponytail swaying back and forth looked particularly lively and pretty. What are you still looking at? Go upstairs and eat. Yi Shuhui's voice came from upstairs. Okay. Chen Mo answered, and quickly ran upstairs. As soon as he entered the room, he saw a table full of delicious-smelling dishes, and Chen Mo couldn't help but get his hands on them. Go wash your hands first, you little glutton. Yi Shui gave him a sour look and slapped his hand. Chen Mo gave a hee-hee laugh, washed his hands, and immediately sat down at the table to eat. How was the interview today? Yi Shui asked casually while eating. She had been upstairs all morning watching. She didn't know what Chen Mo wanted with a secretary. Chen Mo finished eating and looked up at Yi Shui. The interview was just so, Mom. What do you think are the issues with our supermarket right now? What caused them? Yi Shui couldn't help but look thoughtful at these words. The business is not as good as it used to be. The reason is probably that 2 new supermarkets have opened nearby, as well as many new small retail stores. Chen Mo smiled and looked at Yi Shui, so what can be done about it? Yi Shui frowned and shook her head slightly. She and Chen Lauren's main business strategy is to be honest and offer affordable prices. There is really no business strategy to speak of. Chen Mo burped and said with confidence, Then you'll see how I turn things around for you. Yi Shui looked at him doubtfully, hire a secretary to turn things around? Chen Mo. That's not actually wrong. After dinner, Chen Mo pondered in his heart how to revitalize his supermarket. In fact, if you want customers, you have to attract more people to the store. How do you get people to come to the store voluntarily? Chen Mo thought of a few ideas. First, hold promotional activities. This is the most direct and effective short-term method. Second, during the event, promote membership and point cards. Computers were not yet so advanced back then, but paper points could be used, which was a little more cumbersome. Third, that is linkage. For example, in the future, a square wants to maintain sufficient footfall. Then it must have a complete range of goods to play and eat. They all influence each other and drive consumption. If someone comes to play, it will inevitably drive other consumption, eating and shopping. If someone comes to eat, it will probably drive other consumption as well. Chen Mo's ideas also followed this line of thinking, taking turns from these 3 aspects. The first and second methods can be done together. For the third method, it requires continuous operation and long-term planning. Chen Mo was thinking about it and fell asleep without realizing it. Because he was still quite excited last night and didn't get much rest. And now it's the hot summer, the drowsiness hit by noon, and it was really hard to resist. Chen Mo woke up, and it was already past 4 p.m. He immediately put on his shoes and got up to go out, when he heard Yi Shuhui's hushed voice outside the door. Xiao Mo is still resting, so you can have them come for the interview tomorrow. Chen Mo was moved, and pushed open the door, shouting. Mom! Ha? You're awake? Oh, you're finally awake, young boss. People have been coming down here for interviews, and we've had to run back and forth a few times. The one upstairs is the other stalker at the store. She's so eager, so it must be a relative coming for the interview. Chen Mo smiled and said, Okay, let's go downstairs then. But before Chen Mo went downstairs, Yi Shui slipped a bank card into his hand. The card was opened with his ID card and had 50,000 yuan in it, which was supposed to be for him to use in operating the supermarket for the next 2 months. Yi Shuhui herself was going on a trip with her old girlfriends. Chen Mo put the bank card away and found that there were quite a few people waiting downstairs. There were probably about 20 to 30 of them. I guess the news of the spendthrift hiring a secretary has spread throughout the neighborhood, and everyone has come to hear about it. Chen Mo walked into the interview tent amidst the eager stares of the women. Everyone, don't worry, we'll get to you. Chen Mo sped up the interview, but also found many unqualified ones. If you don't have a high school diploma and are less than 165 centimeters tall, don't waste your time lining up. Thanks. Hearing this hint, many people left the line with a disappointed look on their faces. However, since Chen Mo's news that he was hiring a secretary had been released, there were significantly more people in the store today than usual. This is one way to attract people. It was getting late in the evening. However, the store's closing time was 9 p.m. This commuting time also needed to be adjusted. Chen Mo looked at the gradually darkening sky and let out a long sigh of relief after interviewing the last candidate. Finally, it was over. More interviews? A gentle and pleasant voice came from the table. Chen Mo was organizing his documents and subconsciously said, "Sorry, no more interviews." After he finished speaking, he looked up and saw a familiar and beautiful face. Her pretty and enduring oval face, delicate features, and beautiful eyes looked at Chen Mo with the tenderness of a mature woman. She was dressed formally, in a figure-flattering suit and uniform. The snug-fitting trousers outlined her plump waist and hips, and her curvy figure was tight and full, exuding the charm of a mature woman. The school beauty Su Qingshue's mom. Su Yun. Chapter 7007. The school beauty's mom becomes a secretary. Auntie Su. Chen Mo looked at the slightly embarrassed Su Yun with some surprise. Su Yun had offended the bald boss yesterday and was fired. Next, Su Qingxue will go to college, and she will need a lot of money for tuition and living expenses. Su Yun, who is unemployed, is under a lot of pressure. She went out today looking for a job, but none of them were satisfactory. Either the salary was too low or the work was too tiring. She originally wanted to come here to buy some groceries and take a look at Chen Mo. After all, last night Su Qingxue was very rude to Chen Mo, and she wanted to apologize to Chen Mo for Su Qingxue. Along the way, she heard that someone was hiring a secretary here, and the salary was very high. When she came over to have a look, she found it was Chen Mo. So, that's how the scene at the beginning came about. Chen Mo put down the information in his hands and looked at her. "Auntie Su, are you here for an interview?" Su Yun waved her hand slightly embarrassed and said softly, "Since you're not hiring, that's fine. By the way, Auntie, there's something else. Don't take what Qingxue said last night to heart. I apologize to you on her behalf." "You don't need to apologize, Auntie Su. By the way, how's your leg?" Chen Mo saw that she still had some discomfort walking. "It's much better." Su Yun gave a faint smile. "Thank you for helping Auntie last night." Chen Mo, "It's nothing." Su Yun looked at the delicate women's watch on her wrist and said, "It's getting late, I'll go first." After Su Yun finished speaking, she turned to leave. Chen Mo looked at her mature and plump back, and the perky buttocks that swayed from side to side as she walked, and couldn't help but speak out, "Auntie Su, wait a minute." Su Yun turned around, her pair of watery eyes looking at Chen Mo with confusion. Chen Mo coughed lightly and said, "Auntie Su, please leave a message." Su Yun tilted her pretty oval face slightly, with a hint of a smile. "Still recruiting? Don't force yourself, okay?" "No." Chen Mo wasn't at all reluctant. Because the system's rating of Su Yun had surprised Chen Mo. He had no reason to reject her. Name, Su Yun, height 168 centimeters, education, high school graduate. Su Yun's score, appearance 94, body 95, temperament 90, ability 89, potential 90, overall score 91.6 points. A masterful secretary. Hint, there is still room for improvement. 91.6 points. A masterful secretary. A level above Su Qingxue. Chen Mo knew that her score would definitely not be low, especially in the aspects of appearance and body. Su Qingxue is now being suppressed by Su Yun. After all, in terms of appearance, Su Yun is an upgraded version of Su Qingxue. But Chen Mo didn't expect her score to be so high in other areas. Her ability scored 89 points. This proves that she is absolutely outstanding at work. Plus, being a high school student in those days still had some value. "Auntie Su, What was your previous job? I was mainly in charge of business, and sometimes had to do after sales. Anyway, I had to know a little bit about everything, otherwise I couldn't do a good job in sales. Soo-yoon spoke of her previous work with a look of resignation. So, Auntie Sue, do you know anyone who does elevators? Elevators? You mean the escalators you see in big cities like Guangzhou and Shenzhen? Yes. Chen Mo nodded. Soo-yoon frowned, pondering. We don't have any here, but I used to do sales, and I know an owner of this new type of industry. I'll get in touch with him for you. Then get in touch with a renovation team. Huh? Soo-yoon was puzzled for a moment. Why did Chen Mo consider her an employee? But she still habitually took out paper and pen to make a note. What do you need a decoration team for? I want to decorate the second floor of our supermarket and turn it into a place where you can eat and play. So, the elevator is for going from the first floor supermarket to the second floor eating and playing? Soo-yoon's thinking was quick and she instantly understood Chen Mo's idea. Yes. Chen Mo smiled at her and held out his hand, saying, Auntie Sue, I hope we have a pleasant cooperation in the future. Soo-yoon was stunned for a moment and hesitantly shook Chen Mo's hand. Xiao Mo, are you offering me the job of secretary? Well, when can you start, Auntie Sue? Chen Mo smiled and put away the pile of information on the secretary in her hand. I can start right now. Soo-yoon replied in surprise. Auntie Sue, don't worry, let me tell you about the salary first. Go ahead. Your position is secretary, you are only responsible to me, the probation period is 1 month, the salary is 2,000, and after you are confirmed, it will be 3,000. You get 2 days off a week, and work hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Isn't this a bit strange? Any issues? Yes. Soo-yoon replied with a serious face. What's the issue? Chen Mo was a little confused. The salary and benefits were pretty standard, and he was almost 10 years ahead of the curve. I'll have so little time to work. Are you really wasting your money? Chen Mo laughed and said. Auntie Sue, don't think this position is easy. You'll be busy. Soo-yoon nodded, with an expression that said she hoped so. That's good. Chen Mo. Soo-yoon, if that's all, I'll be going then? Chen Mo, okay, work starts at 9 tomorrow, Auntie Sue, don't be late. After Soo-yoon left, Chen Mo couldn't wait to check the reward the system had given him. Ding. Host completes main task, first secretary. Reward obtained, 10,000 points. Master level treasure chest. Do you want to open the master level treasure chest? Chen Mo didn't even think about it before directly confirming. Open the master level treasure chest and receive a monetary reward of 1 million. Receive the lucky charm. The chance of an excellent secretary appearing is increased by 90%. Receive a master level physical enhancement and a master level business bonus, 90% popularity bonus. Chen Mo looked at the rewards and couldn't help but feel secretly shocked. 1 million. This first substantial reward is so generous. 1 million in this era is still very valuable. The other rewards are also quite good, especially the physical enhancement, which cannot be bought with money. The importance of the body needs no further elaboration. Chen Mo felt a little itchy in his body, from the inside out, as if every cell in his body had mutated. At this moment, Chen Mo felt that his whole body was full of inexhaustible strength. Chen Mo felt that he could easily kill a cow with 1 punch. Moreover, Chen Mo also felt that his eyesight and hearing had improved tremendously. The huge improvement in the sensitivity of his 5 senses allowed Chen Mo to instantly notice a tall figure trying to sneak past him. Li Lu? It was Li Lu, and she was the only girl of that height. Ha! Li Lu stopped in her tracks and replied in a low voice. She had actually been here for a while. Moreover, she had heard the entire process of Chen Mo hiring Soo-yoon. Soo-yoon is very suitable for the position of secretary, and she can help Chen Mo. At least, when Chen Mo was talking about the construction team and installing the elevator, Soo-yoon immediately knew what he was going to do. Li Lu was a little surprised. This was not what she expected. Before, Li Lu also thought that Chen Mo was just idle during the summer vacation and was just playing around when he hired people. She never expected that he really had the idea to change the supermarket. Her own thoughts were too childish and naive. Chen Mo looked at the depressed Li Lu and smiled. By the way, I have some good news for you. Come to work tomorrow. Li Lu was taken aback. What did you say? Chen Mo looked at her seriously and said, I said, tomorrow, you will be my secretary. You're hired. Li Lu's eyes were full of surprise, but the next second, she shook her head with a dull look in her eyes, I can't. Her mother's words today were still etched in her mind, every word piercing her heart. Studying is useless. Even if you go to university, you'll just marry someone else's family. What's the point? If you marry early, you can save me money. Li Lu muttered and repeated, I can't do it, I'm useless. Chen Mo watched her dejected expression and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. He spoke firmly, I say you can do it, and you can do it. Li Lu's body trembled slightly, and the dullness in her eyes suddenly returned light in that moment. Chapter 8008 Use your secretary to do things. Ding, main task update, recruit 3 employees, rated silver level and above. Bonus points 10,000. The main task has been updated. You already have 2 silver level secretaries, so you just need to recruit 1 more. You can start working now, and I have something to ask you to remember. Chen Mo put all the information on the secretary who had been interviewed today into Li Lu's hands. Li Lu looked at the information in her hands and followed Chen Mo into the supermarket a little dazed. First thing, notify everyone of the meeting half an hour before everyone goes off duty. Second thing, starting tomorrow, everyone's working hours will be adjusted to 10 a.m., and the end time will remain the same. Third thing, prepare for store upgrades, and everyone will wear uniform work clothes in the future. That's about it for now. Chen Mo finished speaking and turned to look at Li Lu. Have you got all that? Li Lu showed Chen Mo the paper she had written on. Chen Mo smiled and nodded, see, it's not that difficult, is it? Li Lu seemed to have regained some confidence and nodded slightly. Just then, Li Lu's mother saw Li Lu following Chen Mo and angrily said, Lu, what are you doing here after delivering the food? Li Lu was slightly startled. She had already developed a conditioned response to her mother's voice. I'm taking notes. What notes? What's it got to do with you? Auntie Li asked quite sharply. Li Lu could only whisper back, I'm working. Huh? What? What are you doing? Auntie Li's expression was full of mockery. Chen Mo, who had been watching the whole time, really couldn't bear to watch anymore at this point, and said indifferently. Li Lu is my secretary, can't she take notes for me? Chen Mo's words clearly reached Aunt Li's ears. Her originally fierce expression slowly froze, and then she looked at Chen Mo in surprise. Xiao Mo, no, young boss, you're saying that you've hired our Lulu as your secretary? Yes. After Chen Mo finished speaking, he walked straight into the supermarket. He had a lot to do. Behind him came the unmistakably delighted voice of Aunt Li, Lulu, you've really been hired as a secretary? Lulu's soft voice replied with a single word, That's great, 2,000 yuan a month, no, 3,000 yuan a month after you're confirmed, Lulu. You're really a godsend. You have to work hard and do whatever the boss tells you to do, got it? Got it. I'll tell Chen Mo about the work. Hurry up. Auntie Li looked at Lulu's departing backside with a contented smile. On the other side, Lulu quickly caught up to Chen Mo and whispered next to him, Thank you, Chen Mo. Chen Mo looked back at her, waved, and said calmly, Don't thank me too soon. If you don't do a good job, I won't let you become permanent, and it's not impossible that I'll even fire you. Li Lu. She suddenly felt a sense of crisis. In particular, she suddenly thought of Su Yun for some reason. She was much better than herself in every way. Boss Chen, I'll call you boss from now on. Call you General Manager Chen. Chen Mo naturally pointed to the water provided for employees next to him. Get me a glass of water. Li Lu was stunned for a moment and looked at Chen Mo with some confusion. This is what a secretary is supposed to do, Chen Mo said with a serious face. As soon as Li Lu heard that this was what a secretary was supposed to do, she immediately poured a glass of water, brought it back and handed it to Chen Mo. Then she whispered, Is a secretary supposed to bring you tea and pour water for you? Chen Mo took a sip of water. You're not wrong in understanding it like that. In fact, it can be summed up in 5 words, if there's something to do, the secretary does it. Li Lu didn't question this. After all, she really didn't know what a secretary was supposed to do. But after hearing Chen Mo describe it like that, and what her mother had said, she did as Chen Mo told her to do. When the two of them combined their ideas, she almost understood. Write down the things that need to be done tomorrow. Go find someone to make a portable display for the event. What's a portable display? What other events are there? Nearly 2 hours later, Chen Mo had finally explained the general situation to Li Lu. She was indeed a far cry from the quick-witted Su Yun. But fortunately, she was still quick-witted and it wasn't difficult for her to understand. You will be the one to call the meeting. Ha? Me? Li Lu looked at Chen Mo with some panic. Of course. Chen Mo didn't say anything, took a sip of water, and signaled her to start calling the meeting. Li Lu, holding a piece of paper with a long list of things to do, gave it a firm shake and quickly walked over to the woman tidying the shelves. Auntie Lin, the meeting is starting. With that, she walked with her head down towards the cashier's desk. Auntie Wang, the meeting is starting. Mum Li Fong, the meeting is starting. Auntie Li, who had never before been called by her daughter's first name, looked at Li Lu in disbelief. What did you call me? You heard me, Li Fong. Wang Suiping, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but laugh out loud. The employees around them couldn't help but burst out laughing. Lulu, what meeting are you calling us to? Could it be that your mother told you to teach us a lesson? Auntie Li, do you want to be the manager? Go to hell, our Lulu is now the young boss's secretary. Auntie Li said proudly, with her head tilted to the side. The other aunties were stunned. They had only seen Lulu following Chen Mo around all evening, and had thought that they were just young people talking. They even teased her, saying that the two of them were a good match. They never imagined that Li Lu had become Chen Mo's secretary. Is that true? I thought you hadn't hired anyone yet. Do you think Lulu is up to the job? Just as everyone was wondering, Chen Mo said with a serious face. I hired 2 secretaries today. Wow! The aunts couldn't help but show expressions of surprise. Goodness, 1 secretary is 2,000 yuan. This prodigal son has hired 2. It is estimated that the hard work of the Chen family over the past 10 years will be lost to him. Everyone has worked here for so many years and has developed some attachment. They have also received a lot of wages here to support their families. Chen Mo's actions have made them worry that the supermarket, whose business has already been bad, will close down even faster. Then they will lose their jobs. Everyone, except for Auntie Li, felt a little heavy-hearted. Li Lu is one of them. In the future, Li Lu will be responsible for everyone's daily work. When Chen Mo announced this, the aunts were even more stunned. Does this mean that everyone will be under Li Lu's control in the future? A daughter in charge of her own mother? She was a little unable to adapt when Li Lu called her by her name just now. If she has to do it every day in the future. Auntie Li didn't want to accept it. Boss Chen Xiao, do you mean that we will all be under Li Lu's control in the future? Well, let Li Lu talk to you about tomorrow's things, I'll go first. Chen Mo finished speaking and turned to leave. Li Lu was left alone, facing her own biological mother and the aunties who usually called her sweetly. Everyone, listen carefully to my instructions for tomorrow. Li Fong, you are in charge of the cash register. As she listened, Auntie Li couldn't help but clench her fists. Chapter 9009 Auntie Sue's Night Visit. Chen Mo couldn't help but smile as he listened to Li Lu's increasingly confident voice on the second floor. People always have to grow up. Of course, growing up also comes at a price. Chen Mo returned home and was still a little unaccustomed to the closed door. This was because Yi Shuhui had gone on a trip with her old girlfriends. This was something Yi Shuhui had planned a long time ago. The family store was now entirely in Chen Mo's hands. Chen Mo stretched, feeling a little tired today. But it was a fruitful day. There was still 1 secretarial reward that had not been viewed. Silver-level secretarial treasure chest, open or not? Yes. Congratulations to the host for receiving the reward, 10,000 yuan in rewards. 10,000 yuan? That's the only reward? This amount of money, compared to Su Yun's master level 1 million reward, really seemed a bit small. Chen Mo briefly checked the supermarket's accounts today and found that the cash flow was less than 13,000. Yi Shuhui gave him a bank card with 50,000 before leaving. If there is only a little more than 60,000, it is far from enough to build the square layout that Chen Mo imagined. Fortunately, now there is Su Yun's masterful secretary reward. The money is more than enough. When Yi Shuhui returns from her trip, she may not recognize her own supermarket. At the same time, Chen Mo also saw his personal information. Host, Chen Mo. Age, 18. Education, high school graduate. Physical fitness, 100 points, perfect. Charisma, 6 points, average. Skills, none. Fame, 22. Wealth, 1.073 million yuan, ranked 28th in Xinjiang County. Secretaries, 2, Su Yun, Master Secretary, and Li Lu, Silver Secretary. His own stats have changed significantly. Physical strength is 100, which is considered the perfect level for humans. His wealth value has skyrocketed, and his ranking has actually soared to 28th place. This ranking is a bit beyond Chen Mo's expectations. But thinking about it, money in this era has not yet inflated that much, and coupled with the fact that this is just a small county, it is normal to reach this ranking. As Chen Mo thought about it, he became a little hungry. Yi Shui wasn't home, so eating became an issue. Chen Mo was really worried about cooking, as he didn't have the gene for it. He gritted his teeth and cooked the rice, then took out the eggs, tomatoes and meat from the fridge. He tried to make something. 10 minutes later, Chen Mo tasted a mouthful of the meat in the bowl and his face instantly contorted. No dog would eat this. Knock, knock, knock. At the same time, there was a knock on the door. Who is it? Chen Mo put down his chopsticks, opened the door, and looked at the pretty woman in front of him, who was slightly out of breath, and was momentarily taken aback. Su Yun. Auntie Su, why are you here? What's the matter? I went home and looked for contact information, and after asking around, I found some prices that I didn't think were appropriate. Fine sweat broke out on Su Yun's pretty face, and the mature woman's aura came pouring off her. There's no need to rush, Auntie Su, come in and sit down first. Chen Mo took the small notebook she was holding. It recorded the phone number and the relevant information consulted. Didn't you say you would start working tomorrow? You are busy today. Chen Mo poured a glass of water and handed it to her. It's my job anyway, so the sooner I do it, the better. Su Yun took the water and couldn't help but glance at the dishes that Chen Mo had just fried on the table. The smell was a bit strange. You fried the food? Yes. The food is black. You've never fried food before, have you? Su Yun could tell Chen Mo's level at a glance. No, I'll just have to eat out in the future. Chen Mo said helplessly. Su Yun gave a small smile. By the way, where's your mother? Chen Mo let out a small sigh. She's gone traveling. Su Yun couldn't help but roll up her sleeves at this point. Do you have any more food at home? Chen Mo was puzzled. Yes, do you want to cook? Let me fix this meal for you first. Su Yun deftly picked up the remaining ingredients Chen Mo had. Eggs and tomatoes. After all, I am your secretary, right? I am not your personal assistant, am I? Su Yun looked at Chen Mo with a soft and charming smile. Of course not. You are too good to be my personal assistant. Chen Mo stood in the kitchen doorway and looked at Su Yun's mature and plump back. Even if you put aside her pretty face, this figure alone is attractive enough to countless men. The charm of a mature woman is displayed to the fullest in her. There is nothing like being too good for the job. Su Yun sliced the vegetables neatly and her movements were skilled and smooth. It's all work, no matter what you do, as long as you the boss needs it. After she had been frying for a while, the aroma of the food drifted and filled the air. Okay, stir-fried peppers with meat, try it. Su Yun held the dish and handed it to Chen Mo. Chen Mo took a piece of meat and his eyes immediately lit up. Delicious. Auntie Su, your cooking is good enough to open a restaurant. Ha, is it really that good? Su Yun's eyes sparkled with a smile, and she seemed very satisfied with Chen Mo's compliment. It really is. Chen Mo picked up a bowl of rice and buried his face in it. He really was hungry. After a while, Su Yun brought out another dish, scrambled eggs with tomatoes. This dish was full of color and aroma. Chen Mo normally doesn't eat it because he thinks tomatoes are sour, but looking at the dish, he couldn't help but taste the egg. Ha! This is also delicious. As long as it's delicious, you should eat more. Su Yun sat by the side with a gentle smile on her face, watching Chen Mo eat. This scene was like a wife cooking a delicious meal and watching her husband come home after a hard day's work. By the way, Auntie Su, have you eaten? You haven't eaten either? I'll eat when I get home. Don't be polite. Chen Mo went in with the bowl and then came out again with an empty bowl, a little embarrassed. Auntie Su, I'm sorry, there's no more rice. He's finished eating it all. Su Yun looked at his embarrassed expression and couldn't help but laugh. as if she had hit the funny bone. Chen Mo looked innocent. The food you stir-fried is so delicious. Su-yun couldn't help but laugh until her plump and delicate body trembled. Chen Mo. Chen Mo looked at her smile and couldn't help but smile back. Su-yun seemed to have a charm about her. A charm that belonged to the charm of a mature woman. If it were in a previous life, Chen Mo would definitely not have noticed. But after experiencing so many things, now he, although physically 18 years old, is mature enough inside from his experiences. Su-yun is full of the fatal attraction of a mature woman, both in appearance and in her heart. Chen Mo knew in his previous life that Su-yun would start her own business successfully in the future and become a well-known female entrepreneur in the county. She has always remained single, and I don't know how many people are jealous of her. Luckily, she had a good relationship with an elderly lady, whose background helped Su-yun a lot and solved a lot of problems. Hey, why are you looking at me? Auntie Su, you look really good. Su-yun was momentarily flustered by Chen Mo's sudden attack. Mainly because Chen Mo's eyes carried the simple and straightforward fire of a young man. Her heart uncontrollably trembled slightly. Chapter 10:10 The school beauty could not sleep all night. Cough. Auntie Su, I'll cook you some dinner, it won't take long. Chen Mo immediately slipped into the kitchen. At this time, Su-yun felt her face getting a little hot. What's going on? I've actually been molested by a young kid and I'm flustered. She took a deep breath, lifted up the water glass and gulped it down, before slowly calming down. After Chen Mo finished cooking, he returned to the living room. Auntie Su, what do you mean by those prices not being suitable? I asked one of the elevator manufacturers, and they have various types. If you just buy a hand-operated elevator, it might be a bit more expensive. How much is it? According to their lowest price, including shipping, assembly, it's about 100,000 yuan. Su-yun felt that the price was a bit high, and she wondered if the supermarket really had to spend such a high price to install a hand-operated elevator. Chen Mo thought for a moment. Auntie Su, is there any place in our county that has an elevator installed? Su-yun thought about it carefully and shook her head slightly. No. Hearing him ask, Su-yun seemed to think that this was something that could be done again. If there is the first gimmick, it is naturally worthwhile. But if it is just a supermarket, it is a bit of a waste. I think if you just want to be a supermarket, there is no need to spend so much capital. Su-yun sincerely advised. Chen Mo smiled slightly. Auntie Su, of course I want to do the supermarket, but I also want to do something else. Su-yun's heart skipped a beat at this sudden Auntie Su. But there was no time to correct it. The important thing was the business at hand. Okay, as long as you have a good idea in mind, what is your budget for the escalator? The price, I think I can still lower it a bit. I want to, and the budget is 300,000, but it must be good enough, so I'll leave it to you, Auntie Su. Chen Mo looked at her seriously. Su-yun couldn't help but gasp in her heart, as she actually wanted 2 elevators at once. She suddenly felt the pressure as well. This secretary job is not as easy as she had imagined. Chen Mo continued to increase the pressure. Auntie Su, I need to see the elevators installed in a week. And the glass wall decoration on the second floor. Money is not an issue, what's important is efficiency. Get it all done in half a month at most. Su-yun looked grave. I'll do my best. Although she is under pressure, she feels a little more at ease when Chen Mo says that money is not an issue. As long as there is money, the speed will definitely pick up. Okay, Auntie Su, let's eat first. Chen Mo has already set the table for Su-yun without her knowing. At this time, Su-yun is too distracted to eat. What are the requirements for the second floor renovation, apart from the glass wall? Do you need partitions? Or should it all be open? Are you going to do entertainment? And food on the first floor? Su-yun had a busy time eating this meal. She took a bite, Chen Mo said a few words, and she had to take notes. She couldn't help but marvel at Chen Mo's myriad whimsical ideas. If they could really be implemented as Chen Mo envisioned, wouldn't supermarkets become obsolete? Su-yun realized that she had a heavy task ahead of her. The 2,000 yuan was not so easy to earn. The two chatted and before they knew it, it was late at night. It's almost 11 o'clock. Su-yun looked at her watch and got up immediately, quickly tidying the table and washing the dishes on the way. Chen Mo helped put away the tableware. Okay, I have to go back. Auntie Su, I'll walk you home. Chen Mo followed Su-yun out of the room. Su-yun, no, it's fine. Chen Mo would not allow her to refuse. It's so late, if something happens, I can't be responsible. You know how fierce Qingxue is, right? Su Yun. She really couldn't say much about Chen Mo and Su Qingxue. For something like this to work, both parties have to be willing. It can't be forced. Even if she thought Chen Mo was a good match, Su Yun didn't want to force Su Qingxue. Besides, they were both still young, just 18 years old. They still had plenty of time to experience and see the wider world. Chen Mo might meet a better girl. He'll need a car in the future. Chen Mo couldn't help but think. A car? For whom? Our shared car. You see, if you're going to be running around a lot in the future, you'll need a car. A car? A car? Su Yun was slightly surprised. A car was the last thing she expected. She had thought Chen Mo would buy a motorcycle or something. Chen Mo smiled. Auntie Su, is this your phone number? HM. The two walked and chatted, and before they knew it, they had reached the bottom of Su Yun's building. Auntie Su, are you okay climbing the stairs on foot? It's fine, you go back quickly, and be careful on the way. By the way, if you're going to be constantly walking girls home, you really need to buy a car. Su Yun's sudden teasing silenced Chen Mo. After Su Yun went upstairs, her ankle ached a little, and it hadn't fully recovered yet. She watched Chen Mo leave from upstairs, and had a strange feeling in her heart. She had unexpectedly become the secretary of her daughter's classmate. Su Yun opened the door and found Su Qingxue hanging up the phone at home, looking unhappy. Mom! Su Qingxue said listlessly. What's wrong? Nothing. Su Qingxue said, and went into her room. She was very depressed today. The person she had just called was a classmate who had gone with her and Li Lu to interview with Chen Mo in the morning. According to her, Chen Mo had actually chosen Li Lu as his secretary. Is it because he can't catch up with me that he's gone after Li Lu instead? What does Li Lu have that I don't? He chose her as his secretary. Su Qingxue couldn't quite accept it. Chen Mo, who had been so persistent in wooing her, had suddenly changed his attitude towards her. What's more, he was paying court to Li Lu, who was nowhere near as good as her. Su Qingxue's blood pressure rose as she thought about it, and her pretty face turned red. She could only console herself by thinking that fortunately she had never given Chen Mo a cold shoulder. And she had never agreed to his advances. Su Qingxue took a deep breath to calm her nerves. The only consolation was that she had also found a job in the afternoon. But the salary was quite a bit lower than Li Lu's 2,000. Just thinking that Li Lu had become Chen Mo's secretary and could easily earn 2,000 a month made her sleepless tonight. Chapter 11011 Who's taking advantage of whom? The next day. 8 a.m. Chen Mo was still asleep when he was woken by a knock on the door. He opened the door dazedly. There was a tall young girl standing in the doorway. Behind her was a beautiful woman with a mature and plump figure. Li Lu? Auntie Su, why are you here so early? And you're both here together. Auntie Su and I met each other on the way here. Li Lu knows that Su Yun is also Chen Mo's secretary. But Su Yun doesn't know. So when Su Yun met Li Lu and learned that she was also Chen Mo's secretary, she couldn't help but be slightly surprised. Well, I came to tell you that I have to contact the renovation team and the elevator company now, and I probably won't be in the office during the day. Su Yun has a lot of things to do, and she needs to run around. However, this is different from her previous job, where she had to look out for other people's interests. Now she is the boss, in control of the money. The roles have reversed, but the most important thing is to ensure quality and efficiency. Auntie Su, don't worry, I'll go with you. Chen Mo still needs to withdraw some money, and he also wants to buy a car. Li Lu, what do you need? Well, when should we start the promotional activities? You need to explain the promotional activities to them all in a week's time. Okay. Organize all the promotional items, prices, and the advertising shop that will make the promotional signs. Okay. Li Lu casually prepared a notebook to remember everything clearly. Auntie Su, wait for me a moment, we'll go together. Okay. Chen Mo turned around and went inside. Only Su Yun and Li Lu were left at the door. Li Lu smiled at Su Yun. Auntie Su, I'll go get busy first. Su Yun also wore a smile and nodded. Yes, go quickly. As she watched Li Lu's departing back, she couldn't help but think of her own daughter. But thinking about Su Qingxue's personality, she gave up. Auntie Sue, let's go. Chen Mo put on a short t-shirt and walked out. Suyin smiled and surveyed him. When the business gets bigger in the future, you can change to more mature clothes. Chen Mo glanced down at his clothes and indeed they were a bit youthful. I don't know how to pick clothes, Auntie Sue, you can help me choose when you have time. Sure, that's what a secretary is for. Suyin walked ahead with a smile on her face. Her curvy waist and hips exuded a strong mature charm that was incredibly seductive. Right, where are we going first? Get some money. Chen Mo waved the bank card in his hand. Suyin was a little impressed with Yi Shuwei, who had actually been able to leave such a big matter in Chen Mo's hands. But when she thought about it, Chen Mo's whimsical ideas about business didn't surprise her. The two of them walked downstairs and left. The store hadn't opened yet, and the others wouldn't be starting work until after 9. This was the new start time Chen Mo had set for himself. The two of them walked together to the nearest bank. They realized that the bank hadn't opened yet. It would only open at 9. Then I'll go find the renovation team first. Suyin didn't want to waste any time, after all, Chen Mo had told her to get everything done within half a month. Okay, by the way, remember to call if anything happens. Okay. Chen Mo watched Suyin's back as she left, thinking that she should give her and Li Lu a new number and a work phone. Chen Mo went to a breakfast and found the food and beverage giant package he wanted in the system store in his head. This is a food and beverage giant that combines the advantages of KFC and McDonald's. Not only is it cheap, but it is also tastier than the two giants. Unfortunately, in the previous life, domestic fast food appeared too late, and the market share was divided up, leaving too little room to play. But now it's different. The domestic market is still a blank canvas. You need to be the first to open the door to the world. The first one to try the crab is always the most delicious. However, this cost a total of 8,800 secretarial points. The original 10,000 points were instantly reduced to only 1,200. Chen Mo felt that he had to give Suyin some more tasks. Collect fast food production machines. Chen Mo's own one-stop fast food recipe is a pity if it is not used. Chen Mo's thinking still started with the physical entity. Of course, there was still one way to go around the entity, and that was real estate. However, Chen Mo had no intention of throwing the money he had at the county seat. After eating breakfast, Chen Mo went to the bank to withdraw money. He felt a little uneasy inside. However, when the teller saw the amount in the account, she looked at the young man in front of her with some surprise. How much do you want to withdraw? Let's withdraw 500,000 yuan first. 500,000? We need to prepare that. The female teller didn't know what to do. After all, this was the first time she had faced such a large withdrawal. Okay, as soon as possible. Chen Mo felt much more at ease. Before long, the bank manager himself invited him to his office. After some negotiation, Chen Mo got the money and left the bank. With 500,000 yuan in his hands, it was quite heavy. In those days, there were still a lot of punks on the streets, and the non-mainstreamers were still rampant. Their hair was colorful and they walked with their noses in the air. If they didn't like the look of someone, a conflict could break out. However, Chen Mo, whose physical strength had reached its limit, didn't care at all. In fact, he was quite curious to see how many non-mainstreams he could knock out with one punch. Unfortunately, all was well that ended well. Chen Mo took a ride to the nearest 4S store. He found that all the cars were Japanese, and there were almost no domestic cars. Apart from Japanese cars, there were also German cars. Moreover, cars from this era are not cheap at all, and are even more expensive than a decade or so later. Especially luxury brands. Chen Mo couldn't help but think to himself, I still have the entire automotive industry in my system. I can't be too hasty right now, I'll take things one step at a time. First, buy a car. Solve the issue of transportation. Chen Mo first ruled out cars from the island country, purely because he didn't like them. He turned to a German 4S store, but ran into an acquaintance. Su Qingxue. She's even working here during the summer. I didn't realize that 4S stores also recruited summer workers. Is it possible that it's because of her outstanding appearance? Wait, there seems to be another reason. The boy with a face full of acne next to her is their classmate, Lin Hao, a rich second generation. If I remember correctly, his family owns the German Benz 4S store. He is, apart from Chen Mo, Su Qingxue's most loyal dog licker. With Chen Mo's enlightenment, it can now be said that he is the number one dog licker. I think he is the one who introduced Su Qingxue to her current job. Hey, isn't that Chen Mo? Qingxue, come quickly. Lin Hao shouted, and Su Qingxue suddenly saw Chen Mo as well. Her brows involuntarily furrowed. What is Chen Mo doing here? He won't go away. Is he here to chase after me again? Su Qingxue's subconscious thoughts were the habitual thinking that had been cultivated by the licking dogs over the years. Lin Hao, what a coincidence, this can't be your family's shop, can it? Ha, yeah, what are you doing here? Looking at the car? Lin Hao looked pleased with himself, and his eyes on Chen Mo carried a hint of teasing. Su Qingxue said nothing from the side. Chen Mo laughed, yes, take a look, old classmate, do you have a discount on your family's car? Lin Hao puffed out his chest, with a hint of disdain, of course there is, because we are old classmates. I'll give you the biggest discount, but even if I give you a 50% discount, you still won't be able to afford it. I really get a 50% discount? Boss Lin, are you serious? If you buy it, I'll definitely give you a 50% discount. Lin Hao finished with a generous look on his face, and didn't forget to glance at Su Qingxue. At this moment, he was like a male peacock in front of a female peacock, showing off his colorful tail feathers. Chen Mo looked embarrassed. What? You don't have the money, do you? Your supermarket doesn't make much money, and you want to buy this car. Lin Hao had a smug expression on his face, as if he knew Chen Mo was broke. This car costs 540,000 yuan. A 50% discount would still be 270,000 yuan. Is your supermarket worth that much? Chen Mo sighed, I can't compare to you. This car is really beautiful. If it were 60% off, I'd sell my supermarket and buy it. Lin Hao glanced at Chen Mo, sell the supermarket? You're in charge? Chen Mo quietly approached Lin Hao and whispered, my mom is away on a trip, so I'm in charge of the supermarket now. Lin Hao's small eyes immediately lit up. Resisting the joy in his heart, he encouraged him, then sell it, and I'll give you 40% off the car. Chen Mo took a deep breath and said doubtfully, are you really in charge? Lin Hao said impatiently, Chen Mo, who are you looking down on? How could I lie to you? Chen Mo looked torn, I don't doubt you as a big boss, but nowadays we do things according to contracts. If I sell the store, you won't discount the car. Lin Hao thought for a moment, and his mind was spinning very fast. Chen Mo's supermarket only sold for a maximum of 100,000 yuan. I'll sell it to him for 216,000, plus the delivery fee, insurance, and tax, which is almost 250,000. Then I'll give him 1 day to come up with the money, otherwise I'll restore the original price. Lin Hao had worked hard in the store since he was young and had learned some small tricks of the trade. Contract? You don't trust your brother? Fine, I'll have someone go get a contract. Lin Hao quickly walked towards the manager's office. After about 10 minutes, he walked out with a contract in his hand and handed it to Chen Mo. Here, I begged for this with difficulty and had the official seal of the store affixed to it. Chen Mo took the contract and glanced at it. Having experienced various contract traps in his previous life, he could see the shenanigans in this contract. After reading it, he gave a simple smile and said, thanks, old classmate, I'll go home and sell the supermarket to raise the money, so just wait. Lin Hao gave a pleasant smile and nodded repeatedly, okay, hurry up, I'll wait for you to pick up the car. When you sell the supermarket, your mother will be so angry when she comes back that she'll die of anger. Chapter 12012 The Domineering Lawyer. Su Qingxue watched the whole process of Lin Hao trying to sell the car to Chen Mo with a cold eye. Are you really going to sell the car to Chen Mo for 40% off? Yeah, I'm just afraid that he won't be able to afford it in the end. Su Qingxue didn't know the details of the contract. But she knew Lin Hao's intentions, and she knew that he would never give Chen Mo such a big discount. Chen Mo was going to be in trouble. But Su Qingxue wasn't going to tell him. He had only himself to blame. While the two of them were talking, Chen Mo returned. Ha! Su Qingxue and Lin Hao exchanged glances. Lin Hao smiled, Chen Mo? Why are you back? Chen Mo held the bag in his hands and gave a pure smile, I've got the money together. Lin Hao's face changed dramatically, what do you mean? Chen Mo opened the bag in his hands, to buy a car, I've got enough money. Lin Hao looked at Chen Mo's serious expression and his heart skipped a beat. He grabbed the bag in his hands and saw that it was full of wads of money. Here, the original price of this car is 540,000 yuan, right? 40% off, that's 216,000 yuan. Here, your accountant can count it. Chen Mo greeted the people around him with a smile, many of whom were customers who had come to buy a car. Lin Hao immediately covered his mouth and dragged Chen Mo to the manager's office. Chen Mo, I'm just joking with you, this car can't be sold. Lin Hao, what do you mean by that? I have a contract. Chen Mo took out the contract and questioned him. Lin Hao looked at the contract and his face turned pale. He smiled in a forced manner and said, "This is all a joke. I was just teasing you." Chen Mo's eyes hardened. Teasing me? Okay, then don't blame me for calling someone to give you a good publicity campaign. Besides, I've already hired a lawyer. If you don't admit to what you've done, we can meet in court. Lin Hao's face turned red. The manager, who had been called by Su Qingxue, looked at the scene and thought, this is not good. His young master has dug himself a hole. This kid is really something, he's a tough character. The manager, who had a face full of fat, entered with a laugh. Young man, don't be angry, tell me what's going on and I'll help you resolve it. Chen Mo glanced at him, you're in charge? The manager nodded with a smile, yes, I'm the manager of our store, you can talk to me about any issues. Chen Mo showed him the contract and then immediately put it away. Do you understand? The manager nodded with a smile, but his face did not look happy. I understand, but 60% off is really not possible for this car. Chen Mo smiled slightly, no? That's okay, I'll have someone promote it for you, and the court and the Industry and Commerce Bureau will come to you too. The fat manager laughed, don't scare me, I'm not scared. This contract of yours will be invalid after today. Chen Mo, so within one day I came with the money, but you breached the contract, right? The fat manager spread his hands, acting like a little rascal, which he was best at. After today, your contract will be useless. Who knows if you'll come and pay today? Fine, then don't blame me for being rude. Chen Mo nodded with a smile, then took out his hand and pressed the play button. A familiar voice came from the phone, after today, your contract will be useless. Who knows if you'll come and pay today? The fat guy's face instantly turned red as a pig's liver. You little brat. Playing dirty tricks. The fat manager was so angry that he was about to grab Chen Mo's phone. Chen Mo's reaction was far beyond that of an ordinary person. He dodged to the side, and the fat man fell to the ground. I don't like to force people. If you don't want to sell, then we'll meet in court. Chen Mo, who are you trying to scare? You can't afford a lawyer if we meet in court. Lin Hao stopped pretending at this point, glaring at Chen Mo with a red face. Just then, the door to the room was pushed open. A woman wearing a professional suit and a tight skirt with a slender and curvy figure stepped in. The white skirt tightly wrapped her perky buttocks, and a pair of long and slender legs were covered with flesh-colored stockings. The woman was very beautiful, and her body was filled with an aura of a domineering woman. Her pair of beautiful eyes scanned the office. With a slight smile on her red lips, she said, "Who is Chen Mo?" Chen Mo was stunned for a moment and said, "I am." The woman slightly raised her eyebrows, walked over to Chen Mo, opened the file in her hands, and said, "I am your lawyer. Regarding the contract fraud in your car purchase, I will go to court this afternoon to file a lawsuit. Please confirm." Chen Mo took the file, which read in a few swift strokes, "Do you have evidence?" Chen Mo smiled and wrote, "I have recordings and a contract." The woman looked at Chen Mo with surprised eyes, and then said with confidence, "Well, yes, according to the Business Management Act, if there is contract fraud, the store will be closed in serious cases." After the lawyer finished, she turned to leave. Lose money or close the store? The fat manager, who had originally been on the floor, immediately got up after weighing the pros and cons, and said with gritted teeth, "Wait a minute." Chen Mo and the lawyer glanced at each other, and they both saw a fox-like smile in each other's eyes. In less than an hour, all the car-picking procedures were completed. "Hey, Lin Hao, don't you have to do a maintenance check on this car?" "Get lost, scram. TSK, that's no way to treat a customer. I won't be back." Chen Mo waved his hand in frustration. Damn it. Lin Hao was furious, clenching his fists and kicking the wall. He was losing money selling this car. He was sure his mother would scold him when he got home. The lawyer drove off in the Mercedes-Benz E-Class, the 8th generation, with Chen Mo, under the angry stares of all the employees at the 4S shop. This was a result that Lin Hao could never have imagined. He felt that he was very clever, but he couldn't understand how Chun Mo could be so cunning and treacherous. He had seen the loopholes in his contract at a glance, and had made a watertight recording, and finally even hired a lawyer. This was like a carefully planned conspiracy. Lin Hao couldn't help feeling a chill down his spine when he thought about it. Chen Mo, you son of a bitch, you're terrible. At this time, the driving Empress lawyer stepped on the accelerator, and the speed of the car increased in a straight line. Tisk, it's worthy of being a Benz, it's really fun to drive. I haven't asked your name yet. Chen Mo looked at the driving Empress lawyer. You're welcome, Xin Bing. Xin Bing heroically reached out her hand to Chen Mo. Chen Mo. Chen Mo said and shook her hand. Xin Bing, I heard that you are Auntie Susu's boss. Chen Mo coughed lightly and said, sort of. Chen Mo had previously gone to the forest shop to ask Su Yun to find him a lawyer. This Xin Bing seems quite nice. Okay, now that I'm done, I'll go first. Xin Bing stopped the car by the roadside and was about to leave. Chen Mo looked at her side with her billowing breasts and said, wait a minute, Lawyer Xin, I haven't paid you your appearance fee yet. Xin Bing raised an eyebrow slightly and waved her hand, no need, I didn't do much. Just let Auntie Su treat me to dinner when you have time. You can drive, right? Yes. Chen Mo had just happened to find the skill commodity in the system, an A1 driver's license, 1,000 points. Okay, bye. Xin Bing waved her hand and got out of the car with her slender legs. Her back was heroic and valiant, and her whole body was full of the charm of a domineering older sister. Chapter 13:013 Such a Beauty. After Xin Bing left, Chen Mo got into the driver's seat. The system's driver's license directly brought Chen Mo's driving skills to the maximum level. Chen Mo drove to buy 2 mobile phones for Su Yun and Li Lu to use for work. I wonder how Su Yun is doing with her work now. Chen Mo dialed Su Yun's phone number. The phone rang for a while before it slowly connected. Hello, Chen, Xin Bing is here, right? The mature and pleasant voice of Su Yun came through. She even called him Chen. She's here, and it's all done. She didn't charge me, and she said I could treat her to dinner sometime. As long as it's done, I've already sent the decorators to the store, and I'm coming back now. Where are you? I'll come pick you up. Huh? You really bought a car? Su Yun was slightly surprised. She thought Chen Mo was just being enthusiastic. I didn't think he would actually buy a car. I'm at the bus stop on Baifu Street. Okay, wait. Chen Mo hung up the phone and stepped on the accelerator. The Mercedes-Benz of this era was still exceptionally eye-catching. Fine beads of sweat appeared on Su Yun's delicate, oval face. After entering June, the weather in this small southern city was exceptionally hot. Su Yun ran around again, and her clothes were soaked with sweat. There was also quite a bit of sweat on her thighs. It was just that the black trousers covered it well. Su Yun had always dressed conservatively, probably because of her appearance. Both her face and figure were too eye-catching, and she had to wrap herself up tightly. But she actually didn't know that the tight clothes she wore instead showed off her mature and plump figure even more vividly. Many men next to her couldn't help but keep their eyes on her. A woman like Su Yun was the center of attention wherever she went. Su Yun waved her hand next to her face. She saw a brand new, dazzling black Mercedes-Benz speeding by in the sunlight. This Mercedes-Benz also instantly attracted the attention of the passers-by waiting for the bus. They saw the car come to a stop right in front of Su Yun. At this time, everyone couldn't help but sigh. Such a woman is indeed not something ordinary people can match. A good woman deserves a good horse. Su Yun looked at the car and hesitated for a moment. She didn't know if it was Chen Mo. It wasn't until the window slowly lowered and she saw Chen Mo that she walked up and slightly awkwardly opened the car door. She stepped into the car first with her slender, plump legs, and then sat down in the passenger seat. Fasten your seatbelt. Chen Mo pointed to the seatbelt next to her. Su Yun pulled out the seatbelt and buckled it. I have asked 3 decoration teams, compared prices, and the Zhang family at the South Station is the cheapest. They will come in the afternoon, and then you can negotiate the price. As soon as Su Yun got in the car, she started reporting on her work. She had hardly stopped all morning. But it would continue in the afternoon, whether it was buying an elevator or the various machines Chen Mo needed to buy, she would have no time off for the next half month. Chen Mo was very glad that he had chosen Su Yun as his secretary. She really was very capable. Auntie Sue, from now on, you can use this phone, and all your transportation and meal expenses for work, as well as accommodation expenses if you go out of town, will be reimbursed. Soo-yun looked at the phone and said that if it was for work, then there would be no issue. After all, she had to call a lot of people every day, and the phone bill was indeed a significant expense. Add in the cost of transportation and meals, and it really added up. Chen Mo pulled up in front of the supermarket. It immediately attracted a lot of attention. Auntie Lee and Auntie Wang from the supermarket immediately poked their heads out to take a look. When Chen Mo and Soo-yun got out of the car, they couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "It's the young boss." And who is that woman? They didn't know that Soo-yun was also Chen Mo's secretary. Li Lu, on the other hand, said calmly, "She is also the boss's secretary. She is in charge of the decoration of the back of our store." Gee, this woman. Auntie Lee was about to speak but stopped. As a woman, she was jealous of Soo-yun's figure and looks. Li Lu quickly walked up to Chen Mo and Soo-yun. Chen Mo handed her his phone. "From now on, use this to contact me about work." Li Lu was taken aback when she took the phone. Everyone else around her gave her envious looks. This secretary's treatment is really different from theirs. "Let me introduce you, this is Secretary Sue, who will be in charge of all matters in our supermarket in the future." Soo-yun was the one who was most surprised when Chen Mo made this introduction. Didn't he say that she would be in charge of business matters? How did he suddenly put her in a position where she was above everyone else? In the time that followed, Soo-yun, Li Lu, and Chen Mo himself all worked at high speed. Soo-yun first negotiated the renovation matters, and then prepared for the major event of buying an elevator. Chen Mo planned the renovation layout, making changes at any time. Li Lu was in charge of the supermarket's activities. The three each did their own job. Over the next 7 days, the supermarket underwent changes that were visible to the naked eye. It was almost a different look every day. For 7 days, Chen Mo watched the changes in the supermarket and couldn't help but marvel. The renovation of the supermarket involved 3 renovation teams working simultaneously. The first floor was decorated separately to create a KFC-style store. The big GKD sign had already been hung up, very conspicuous. Specializing in fast food, burgers, and Coke was a novelty in those days. Although similar in type, the secret recipe for fast food, which had been systematically improved by GKD, had an advantage over KFC in terms of both taste and price. At the same time, the second floor was also being decorated in full swing. It was just waiting for the escalator to be in place. Batches of specially customized machines were delivered to the entrance of the supermarket. Chen Mo and Soo-yun went to order them. There were crane machines, private karaoke rooms, and some trendy game consoles. Chen Mo's big show naturally attracted a lot of attention. For example, Fu Limin, the original manager of the supermarket, who had resigned. He passed by the supermarket 800 times a day, and every time he passed by, his eyes were gloomy. A spoilt brat messing around. All this fancy stuff is a recipe for disaster. Fu Limin had said this to many people. He was waiting to see Chen Mo's joke. Meanwhile, Chen Mo had recruited 4 more employees to take care of the GKD service. Of course, the main thing was that Chen Mo wanted to complete the second main task. Now that he has spent almost all the money, only about 200,000 yuan is left, and he has also spent all the secretarial points. Recruit 3 employees, at least silver level or above. Unfortunately, Chen Mo has not been able to find anyone who can reach a silver rating or above. Where is he going to find a 3rd employee? The face of Xin Bing, the elegant lawyer, subconsciously appears in Chen Mo's mind. She is outstanding in both appearance and ability. Xin Bing's rating is definitely far above silver level. The key is, would she be willing to be his secretary? Chapter 14:014. Shocked Soo-yun. But as a lawyer, would she be willing to be her own secretary? Legal secretary? Soo-yun is not just a secretary either, she manages a lot of things. Chen Mo made up his mind, and it just depends on when Soo-yun is free to ask Xin Bing out. But there is definitely no time right now. During this period of time, Soo-yun was the busiest person, with so many things to take care of. Finish training the newly recruited GKD waiters. Chen Mo, Soo-yun, Li Lu, and the other 6 employees from the supermarket. Let everyone experience what GKD is really like and see if any improvements are needed. After all, it will officially open for business tomorrow. For dinner today, the boss invited us to eat at the GKD next door. Li Lu conveyed Chen Mo's meaning. Everyone was happy and curious. They had always been curious about what Chen Mo was going to do next door. They said he was going to cook, but they hadn't seen any job advertisements for chefs, otherwise they would all have applied. Now everyone knew that Chen Mo was a spendthrift and was generous with his employees. Let's go. Led by Chen Mo, the group walked into the GKD restaurant. 4 waiters stood at attention. "Hello, welcome to GKD." The 4 waiters said with a smile. This made Auntie Lee and the others feel flattered. When did they get such treatment? Chen Mo did not go ahead to order, after all, no one here could order. The other guests did not have this experience either. This is where the guiding role of the waiter comes in. "Hello, what can I get for you? We can also recommend some delicious food." The girl in charge of the cash register, just 18 years old, named Lin Yu, had been out and about since graduating from junior high school. She was most conscientious when learning this service. Lin Yu smiled and handed the order form to the woman in front of her, Aunt Lee. "Would you take a look?" Aunt Lee took the order form and looked at it, but found that she couldn't read it very well. "You recommend something that will fill us up. If you want to fill up, we recommend our best chicken burger." Aunt Lee and the others didn't know what a burger was, but they did know chicken. "Then we'll have one." "We'll have one too." The aunts each ordered a burger. Lee, who was working the register, asked sharply, "How much is this burger?" Lin Yu smiled. "A chicken burger is 7 yuan. The price wasn't cheap, but it wasn't expensive either. However, it might be a bit difficult to get Lee and the others to spend money." Of course, this fast food was not originally aimed at them, but at young people like Li Lu and Su Yun or people with busy work schedules. "Besides the burger, may I take your order? We also have delicious drinks with ice, as well as chicken nuggets, potatoes, chicken wings, and chicken legs." "Just a burger will do," Auntie Lee and the others said honestly. They didn't just order whatever because Chen Mo was treating them. "One more person, one more Coke, a little bit of everything for the chicken nuggets, potatoes, and chicken wings," Chen Mo said. "Okay, boss." As soon as Lin Yu heard Chen Mo's words, she agreed and immediately started printing the order. They served the food quickly. This is still very important. "Hello, please come and collect your food." Auntie Lee and the others looked at the hamburger, cola, and napkins on the plate. Everything was there, and they felt inexplicably comfortable, as if their social status had improved. Auntie Lee and the others sat down with their food, and curiously opened the hamburger paper one after the other. The smell was not bad. They took a bite, and the taste was not bad. This taste has been systematically improved and is more suitable for the taste of the Chinese people. Auntie Lee and the others couldn't help but nod repeatedly. "It's delicious. There's even chicken in it. This ice cola is so cold it goes right to the core of your being, it feels so good." Aunt Lee and the others discussed with excitement and curiosity. Li Lu and Su Yun were also interested by now. They were already hungry, and after hearing what they had to say, they were even hungrier. Chen Mo smiled and said, "Aunt Su, Li Lu, just order whatever you want to eat." Li Lu took the order form and looked it over, then said, "I'll have a spicy burger, some chicken wings and a Coke." "Okay, just a moment, please take the order number." Lin Yu, who was a little more familiar with the place, handed the printed order form to Li Lu. Su Yun then looked at Chen Mo and said, "Can you order for me? You know best what's good here." Su Yun has a bit of a cunning streak. "If it's not good, don't blame me." Su Yun nodded crisply, trusting him quite a bit. 2 chicken burgers, 2 orders of fries, 1 order of chicken wings, 1 order of chicken nuggets, and 2 Cokes. "Okay. Please wait a moment, your order numbers. Pick up your food with this order number?" Su Yun took the order number and looked at Chen Mo. "Yes, if your order number is on this display, it means you can come and pick up your food." "Oh, that's quite convenient." Li Lu, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but feel a little envious when she saw Su Yun and Chen Mo chatting and laughing so freely. She actually admired Su Yun quite a bit now, and had learned a lot from her. "The food for orders 7 and 8 is ready." "Great." Li Lu and Su Yun could finally eat. They were really hungry. "Try it." Chen Mo watched as the two opened the packaging and took a bite of the burger. Su Yun's eyes brightened as she took a bite and nodded in affirmation, not bad." Li Lu nodded repeatedly, "It's delicious." Chen Mo squeezed the ketchup onto a piece of paper, dipped the fries in it, and handed it to Su Yun. Try it. Su Yun raised her eyebrows slightly, then took the fries with a hint of a smile, and ate them in one generous bite. This one tastes even better. Lulu, you try it. Li Lu was instantly attracted, dipping the fries in ketchup. Wow, this is delicious. The two women seemed to have discovered a new continent, and they devoured the fries, one after the other, until the entire portion was gone. Indeed, fries are still a huge draw for girls. Auntie Li and the others were suddenly attracted to the fries that Li Lu and the others were eating. None of them had ordered fries. Lulu, give me a fry. Auntie Li held out her hand to Li Lu. Chen Mo smiled and said, order 8 more servings of fries and 8 more burgers. You can take them home. Everyone couldn't help but clap their hands in joy. People at this time were still very easy to satisfy. Everyone happily packed the burgers and fries to take home to their families to try. They were preparing to officially open for business the next day. Everyone would be on time for work tomorrow. Good. Everyone laughed and agreed, waving goodbye. Chen Mo came out of the shop and closed the door. He noticed that Su Yun had not left yet. Auntie Su, why haven't you left yet? Su Yun took out a stack of 100 yuan bills from her bag. This is the rest of the money from the purchase of the machine. Chen Mo took the money and smiled. Auntie Su, you have had a hard time these past few days. I have something I want to tell you. Su Yun looked at Chen Mo suspiciously. What is it? Chen Mo opened the car door. Get in first. Su Yun looked at Chen Mo as he got in the car, hesitated for a moment, but then got in the car after him. What is it that you want to tell me that you have to get in the car to say? Su Yun's beautiful eyes were full of curiosity. It's not a big deal, I just want to congratulate you on being promoted early, and your salary for this month will be 3,000 yuan. What? Isn't the trial period 1 month? Rules are meant to be broken, and people are meant to be flexible. I'm very satisfied with your performance, so you've been promoted early. Thank you, I thought. Su Yun let out a long sigh of relief. Chen Mo, what? Did you think I was going to fire you after you've done your job? Su Yun's smile revealed a hint of bitterness. A little, after all, she had experienced it many times before. Those men could not see her abilities, only her appearance. But when they could not possess her, they would become enraged. Like that greasy bald man before. It was normal for Su Yun to be a little sensitive. It felt so good to have her abilities recognized. She whispered softly, thank you, Chen Mo. Chen Mo did not expect his affirmation to be so important to her, and he smiled slightly. Auntie Su, it's dark, I'll take you home. Chapter 15:015 The Role of a Good Secretary. Chen Mo drove Su Yun home. It was already 10 o'clock at night. There were almost no pedestrians on the roadside. There were indeed very few entertainment activities in the small county town at night. The car drove smoothly all the way to the bottom of Su Yun's house. Auntie Su. Chen Mo turned his head and found that Su Yun had fallen asleep in her seat at some point. Her plump upper body slowly rose and fell with her breathing, and the charm of a mature and beautiful woman filled the car. Chen Mo looked at her exquisite profile and didn't want to wake her up for a while. After all, Su Yun had really worked hard during this period of time. She had done a good job with everything Chen Mo had given her to do. Hiring her as a secretary had been a good deal for Chen Mo. A strand of hair on Su Yun's face fell on her profile, giving her a touch of messy beauty. Su Yun let out a soft grunt and slightly turned her body towards Chen Mo. There was more hair on her face. Chen Mo hesitated for a moment, slowly reaching out to her, ready to quickly arrange her messy hair. But just as his hand was about to touch Su Yun's, as if she had a sixth sense, she suddenly opened her eyes and looked at Chen Mo's outstretched hand in surprise. Chen Mo's hand couldn't help but stop in midair, and he said with slight embarrassment, Auntie Su, don't get me wrong, I just want to fix your hair a bit. Su Yun also felt her slightly messy hair, and she gathered her jade fingers through her green hair and pinned it behind her ear. Her pretty face flushed slightly. Oh. Then she reacted, and the car stopped. Is this it? Thanks. After Su Yun finished speaking, she opened the car door, stepped off the car with her long, slender legs, and walked straight upstairs. It wasn't until she reached the second floor that she slowly stopped, listening to the roar of the car downstairs, and she couldn't help but look downstairs. Until the car disappeared. Chen Mo drove home, took a shower, and lay in bed. Checking his information. Host, Chen Mo. Age, 18 years old. Education, high school graduate. Physical fitness, 100 points, perfect. Charisma, 6 points, average. Skills, none. Fame, 101 earned titles, business rookie. Assets, 1.118 million yuan, ranked 25th in Xinjiang County. Obtained the title, millionaire, 10% bonus to business popularity. Business rookie, 3% bonus to business popularity. Secretaries, 2, Su Yun, masterful secretary, and Li Lu, silver-level employee. Your reputation has risen. You have also obtained a new title. Although your current cash flow is only about 200,000 yuan, your total assets have increased by tens of thousands of yuan. His ranking in the county has risen 3 places. If this continues, capital accumulation will still be too slow. Chen Mo mused whether to go into real estate or the internet next. Each has its own advantages. It's hard to choose, so I'll take both. But for now, I still need to recruit a secretary. Completing the main tasks of the system will ensure smooth development going forward. Chen Mo couldn't help but see the face of a woman in his mind, Shin Bing. The night passed. The next day, Chen Mo was sound asleep when there was a knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Chen Mo woke up, threw on a short t-shirt, and walked over to open the door. As soon as the door opened, there was a scream. Ah! That scream also woke Chen Mo up instantly. He saw Su Yun blushing, with one hand covering her eyes. Chen Mo looked puzzled. Auntie Su, what's wrong? Su Yun's heart was beating wildly, and her mind was filled with the image of Chen Mo opening the door. Did the young man have such a temper in the morning? She was shocked, biting her red lips lightly, her voice a little weak. She said, "You're not dressed." How could she not be dressed? She had clearly come out and put on clothes. Chen Mo looked down and immediately came to his senses. Damn! He was just wearing a bitter tea seed and standing upright. In the morning, this kind of situation is normal for any man. Not to mention that he is at the age when he is most irritable. Chen Mo turned around awkwardly and fled. Su Yun watched Chen Mo's departing back and couldn't help but let out a long breath of relief. The scene of Chen Mo just opening the door couldn't help but reappear in her mind, and her pretty face couldn't help but blush. After a while, Chen Mo finished washing up and walked out. The upright figure of Chen Mo, with his youthful and sunny aura, came right at her. Auntie Su, why are you up here? What's the matter? Isn't GKD opening today? It's almost 9 o'clock. I overslept. Chen Mo patted her forehead lightly and immediately went downstairs with Su Yun. Fortunately, Su Yun is now in charge, and Li Lui is meticulous and manages other miscellaneous matters. At this time, there were already quite a few people outside the GKD store. Today is not only the opening of GKD, but also a supermarket promotion. Yesterday's flyers were quite effective. Early this morning, there were already quite a few people gathered in front of the store. Most of them came for the supermarket sales. The popularity bonus of the system should also be useful for this. As the supermarket doors opened, the crowd rushed in. Everyone had their hands full today. Most people went into the supermarket, but a few young people, curious, went into the GKD next door. This is how popularity is driven. The GKD now needs the popularity of the supermarket to drive it. In the future, the popularity of the supermarket may need to be driven by the GKD and the entertainment on the second and third floors. This is a virtuous cycle that promotes each other. Chen Mo himself entered GKD to see the feedback from the first group of customers after they had eaten. There were about 30 guests throughout the morning. Many of them originally came for the supermarket promotions. Then they were curious and entered GKD. Everyone's feedback was quite good. Some even packed a takeaway. Chen Mo had a feeling in his heart that GKD should be stable. As the afternoon and evening wore on, GKD not only became established, but the flow of people was even greater than in the morning. Word of mouth was spreading fast. Some of the customers were repeat customers who had eaten there in the morning and came back in the evening. This was beyond Chen Mo's expectations. He thought GKD would do well, but he didn't expect it to do so well so quickly. The first day was over. Everyone looked tired, but they were shocked when they checked the accounts. The supermarket's turnover was 10 times that of previous days. And the GKD's turnover on the first day of opening actually broke 1,000. The total was 1,258 yuan. After deducting the cost and labor, the net profit was still close to 40%. That's almost 500 yuan. This profit is quite amazing. However, this is also due to the popularity of the supermarket's promotional activities. But Chen Mo felt that as long as word of mouth continues to ferment, the future turnover will never be lower than today. Chen Mo called everyone together before leaving work and announced, "Everyone has worked hard today, so I'm going to give everyone an extra 100 yuan bonus this month." What? Really? 100 yuan? That's great. You're truly a spendthrift. No, you're truly our best boss. Long live the boss will never die. Chapter 16016. Late at night, Auntie Sue, want a drink? Everyone was ecstatic about the bonus. Chen Mo couldn't help but smile as he watched them shouting that the boss would never die. Everyone was tired today, but they were full of energy thanks to Chen Mo's bonus. Everyone went home and took care. The group left, still full of energy. Chen Mo looked at Su Yun, who had not yet left. "Auntie Sue, where is the elevator?" "It should arrive tomorrow, just in time for the stairs to be finished and the installation to begin in the next few days." "Well, have all the other machines arrived?" "They're basically all here, they're in the warehouse now. Do you want to go and have a look?" "Yes." Chen Mo and Su Yun went to the warehouse behind the supermarket. It was normally used to store goods, and the empty space was now crammed full. They opened the warehouse door. It was a little dark inside. "Where's the light?" Su Yun's voice carried a hint of fear. "It seems to be on the left." Chen Mo walked to the left and, before he could turn on the light, suddenly heard a scream from behind him. "Ah!" Su Yun saw a large rat scurry past her feet from the dim streetlight outside. She screamed and subconsciously ran towards Chen Mo. "Ha!" Chen Mo looked at the running Su Yun and subconsciously embraced her. The two of them couldn't help but freeze at this moment and looked at each other, feeling each other's breath and heartbeat. Drip! The sudden honking of a car outside the road instantly broke the amorous atmosphere. The two could not help but come to their senses. In particular, Su Yun immediately broke free from Chen Mo's embrace and whispered, "You go turn on the lights." Chen Mo also came back to his senses at this time and turned on the lights in the warehouse. As the lights came on, the atmosphere between the two became slightly awkward. Su Yun calmed her emotions first and showed Chen Mo the machines that had been delivered one after the other over the past few days. "This is the crane machine delivered today, this one was delivered yesterday, and those are also the machines delivered today. Tomorrow there will be elevators and some games and singing machines. Do you need to rent another warehouse?" Well. After looking at the machines, the two walked out of the warehouse. Together they pulled down and locked the warehouse door. Su Yun looked at Chen Mo and said softly, "If there's nothing else, I'll go home first." "Auntie Sue, let me walk you home." "That's not necessary. Didn't you hear Auntie Lee and the others say that a woman was robbed when she came home late last night?" "Robbed?" Su Yun's heart suddenly skipped a beat, and she looked at Chen Mo slightly suspiciously. "Yes, I heard that if you meet a pretty one, it's possible that Auntie Sue, just imagine if you..." Chen Mo looked at her with a serious expression. Su Yun. She was indeed a little afraid in her heart. It's not that she's narcissistic, but if she really encounters someone with evil intentions, it's too dangerous. "Let's go, Auntie Sue." Su Yun still got into Chen Mo's car. The car sped all the way, and in less than 10 minutes, it arrived at the bottom of Su Yun's building. "Thank you, you've worked hard," Su Yun said softly, then opened the car door. Before she got out, she looked back at Chen Mo and gave him a reminder. "Drive home safely." "Okay, bye." Chen Mo finished and drove home. He was really a bit tired that day. After returning home, he washed up and lay in bed. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. Chen Mo picked up the phone and it was an SMS reminder. "Su Yun, this is the total cost of the elevator purchase, and all invoices will be handed over to Li Lu for verification in due course." Chen Mo glanced at it and saw that the total price for the two elevators was just over 280,000. This was the price that Su Yun had negotiated for a long time. Received. Chen Mo read it and sent a message back. "Su Yun, good, haven't you gone to bed yet?" "Chen Mo, I just finished washing up and am lying down." After a while, Chen Mo's phone vibrated again. Soo-yun, then you get some rest early, good night. Chen Mo, good night. Chen Mo put down the phone and fell asleep shortly after. Meanwhile, at Soo-yun's home, she looked at the phone and saw Chen Mo's last message, good night, and for a moment, she couldn't sleep. The scene that happened in the warehouse tonight kept popping up in her mind. She closed her eyes and her face flushed. In the next few days, the supermarket on the old street became even busier, although the number of people was comparable to the first day of the promotional event. This was beyond Chen Mo's expectations. The word-of-mouth publicity for GKD continued to grow. More and more young people came here to try something new. Due to the advantages in taste, service and price, GKD had become the favorite gathering place for young people in the county in just a few days. This was exactly the direction Chen Mo had predicted. With the opening of the second and third floors, even more young people would come here. At noon, another batch of machines was delivered, and Soo-yun was in charge of receiving them. At the same time, the stairs leading from the first floor to the second floor, where the elevator was to be installed, had also been completed. Today, the elevator on the second and third floors was also installed. All kinds of machines were moved up there. The installation of the elevator saved a lot of manpower. In the past few days, the entertainment facilities on the second and third floors have been basically completed. The second floor is still mainly various game machines, crane machines, and karaoke rooms. Chen Mo had redecorated everything on the third floor except his own bedroom, but hadn't yet decided what to do with it. He would first see what effect the second floor had, and then decide on the third floor. Finally, it was finished. Chen Mo stretched tiredly. Soo-yun next to him gave a relieved smile. It had taken just 2 weeks, and he had completed the task you had given me. She didn't say it, and Chen Mo hadn't thought of it yet, but he smiled and said, Auntie Sue, you've worked hard. It's not hard work. I'm just doing my job for a wage. Soo-yun is relaxed. She feels at ease taking this wage. Her efforts are worth this wage. To celebrate finishing the job, shall we have some late-night snacks? Chen Mo is hungry. It's already the early hours of the morning. Everything she ate this evening has been digested. There's no food anywhere at this hour. There are no shops open past 10 p.m. in this small county town. And there are no proper late-night eateries. Right, didn't a delivery of hot pot seasoning come to the store today? Hot pot? Third floor of the supermarket, Chen Mo's living room and home. A pot of red oil for hot pot is floating in the pot, with pieces of beef rolling around in it, emitting a rich fragrance. Chen Mo scoops out a piece, blows on the steam, and eats it in one bite. You slow down, don't burn yourself. Soo-yun's voice gently reminds him. You eat too. Chen Mo scooped out a piece and put it in her bowl, then got up and took a bottle of red wine from the refrigerator. Auntie Sue, do you want some? Have a little. Soo-yun didn't know why she had so mysteriously agreed. Chapter 17017 I like big ones. Chen Mo opened the red wine, but there were no stem glasses at home. He took 2 glasses and put them on the table. He poured half a glass for each person. After Chen Mo finished pouring the wine, he couldn't help but smile slightly. What's so funny? Soo-yun lifted her glass of wine and looked at him quizzically. Chen Mo lifted his glass as well. Everyone pairs red wine with steak, but we're pairing it with hot pot, isn't that a bit strange? Soo-yun couldn't help but laugh. No one says that red wine must be paired with steak. The key to drinking is who you're drinking with. Her beautiful eyes were like autumn water, as she took a sip, leaving a light red lip print on the glass. Chen Mo took a sip as well. The wine was just so, but it was especially pleasing to drink with a beautiful woman. Chen Mo, thank you. After Soo-yun finished speaking, she raised her glass, tilted her head, and finished the wine in one gulp. Before Chen Mo could react, her glass was already empty. Soo-yun, who had finished drinking, had a slight blush on her mature and charming face. A hint of charm unconsciously radiated from her. She lightly brushed her waist-length green hair, showing off the charm of a mature woman. Auntie Sue, slow down, don't get drunk. Soo-yun couldn't help smiling when she heard this. When other men drink with me, they just want me to drink more and preferably get drunk. Her slender, jade-like fingers lightly tapped Chen Mo. You're still afraid that I'll get drunk? Chen Mo smiled faintly. I'm not afraid that you'll get drunk, I'm afraid that you'll hurt yourself if you drink too much. Soo-yun was slightly taken aback. How long has it been since she hurt her body? No one has really cared about her. A warmth welled up in her heart. Don't worry, my tolerance is bottomless. Chen Mo couldn't help but smile. No matter how good your tolerance is, just drink in moderation, until you're slightly tipsy. He poured Su-yun another half glass. You're absolutely right. Su-yun raised her glass, took a sip, and looked at him seriously. Chen Mo, you don't feel like an 18-year-old. Oh? More like a mature man, with a calm confidence and a carefree charm. Su-yun looked at Chen Mo with her charming eyes, full of curiosity. Normally she wouldn't say something like that, nor would she look at a man so directly. Maybe it was because she had drunk some wine. Chen Mo smiled and said, Auntie Su, you're the same. You're full of the charm of a mature woman's elegance and confidence. Really? Su-yun's red lips couldn't help but curve up slightly. Women, who wouldn't like to hear sweet nothings? Of course, in terms of appearance, Su-yun had heard it since she was a child and was already tired of it. Chen Mo's praise from the perspective of inner temperament made it seem even more sincere. Of course. Humph, men's mouths. Su-yun said with a hint of a smile at the corner of her mouth. Chen Mo subconsciously added, liar's ghost. Su-yun had never heard this trendy term before and couldn't help but laugh. Then she affirmed, you're right. Chen Mo smiled and said, Auntie Su, hurry up and eat, or the beef will be overcooked. Su-yun pointed at her glass and her beautiful eyes carried a hint of charm. Okay, then pour some more wine. It was as if she were being coquettish. After drinking, she was charming in every move. The two of them drank wine and ate meat. Time passed unknowingly, and it was already past 1 in the morning. Su-yun had drunk a lot, and her pretty, perfect oval face was flushed with a hint of alcohol. She slowly got up, her eyes wandering. Well, I should go home. Chen Mo hadn't drunk as much as Su-yun, but he had drunk quite a bit, and definitely couldn't drive at this time. But if he didn't drive, he didn't feel comfortable letting Su-yun walk home alone. If she went out like that, she would definitely be picked up. Chen Mo got up and held her back. Auntie Su, don't go home tonight, just rest here. Su-yun shook her head slightly. No, I have to go back. She spoke stubbornly and walked towards the door. Chen Mo exerted himself and pulled her back, but perhaps he exerted himself too much. He pulled her directly into his arms. Su-yun bumped into Chen Mo's arms and couldn't help but flinch slightly. She felt the onslaught of hormones, stirring her heart. Chen Mo's breath was on her face. Su-yun felt her face getting hotter and hotter. Chen Mo's arms were around her plump waist, with a soft and supple feel. His eyes unconsciously fell on her fragrant red lips. He couldn't help but slowly move closer. Su-yun looked at Chen Mo, who was getting closer and closer, and her hands couldn't help but clench, and she slowly closed her eyes. Su-yun felt like her breathing had almost stopped. Her whole body was stiff. And she was almost sobered up. She even wanted to fall into this irrational abyss. But suddenly the face of Su Qingxue appeared in her mind. Su-yun instantly woke up. She lightly patted Chen Mo's shoulder and said softly, Chen Mo, don't. Chen Mo slowly stopped and looked at her. Su-yun's eyes were full of struggle as she said, we can't, you are Qingxue's classmate, you can't. Su Qingxue? Chen Mo heard this name and a wave of unknown anger rose in his heart. In her previous life, she had tantalized him, treated him with the utmost care, and given him everything, but when he finally went bankrupt, she left him without a word of goodbye, cold-bloodedly and mercilessly. Now, having been reincarnated, he still had to ruin his own good things because of her. Chen Mo's eyes turned slightly red as he looked at Su-yun. Auntie Su, I don't like her, I like you. Su-yun's heart skipped a beat at his confession. Like me? How can this be? I'm older than you. So what? Chen Mo looked at her seriously. I like older women. Su-yun. This made Su-yun freeze slightly. Her thoughts were still unable to accept Chen Mo's advanced thinking. At least not yet. But her feelings towards Chen Mo were also very complicated. She had a good impression of him, but he was her daughter's classmate, and there was an age gap between the two of them. She couldn't convince herself for the time being. Sorry, Auntie Su, I've had a bit too much to drink and I'm a bit impulsive. Tonight, you sleep in my mom's room. It's not safe to go back so late. Chen Mo said, and silently turned around and went back to his room. Su-yun looked at his lonely back and felt a little complicated. Chen Mo fell onto the bed and slowly closed his eyes. He really felt a little drunk after drinking. Su-yun was not a casual woman. On the contrary, she was very self-respecting. Because there were too many men coveting her, she was more guarded than the average person. Even though she had already developed some feelings for Chen Mo. Encouraged by the alcohol, she restrained herself and did not succumb to being dominated. She was worthy of being a woman who had been single all her life. Chen Mo thought, feeling drowsiness coming over him. But while half asleep, the door to his bedroom was quietly pushed open. A mature and plump figure slowly walked in. Chapter 18:018 The appearance of a masterful secretary. The woman came to Chen Mo's side, and then he felt a towel being wiped across his face. Afterwards, the woman left again. After a night's sleep, Chen Mo slowly woke up. He smelled the aroma of noodles. Has my mother returned? Chen Mo got up and left the room. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a mature and plump figure carrying a bowl of noodles coming out of the kitchen. Auntie Sue? You're awake? Eat your noodles quickly, the supermarket will be opening soon. Suyun said as she placed the noodles on the table. Okay. Chen Mo said, and went to wash up first. After washing up, he came out and found that Suyun had already left. This. Chen Mo finished the noodles in 2 bites and then quickly left the room to find Suyun. The stairs had been replaced with an elevator. Chen Mo turned on the elevator switch. He took the elevator directly downstairs. From the 3rd floor to the 1st floor. Chen Mo could feel everyone's excitement. After all, the results of the busy past month and a half were about to bear fruit. Today was the first day of the 2nd floor. The supermarket's promotional activities had already begun, and the flow of people had stabilized. After the 2nd floor opened, it might bring a large wave of people to the supermarket and GKD. In addition to overseeing the renovations and storing the machines, Chen Mo had also been recruiting new employees in the past few days. A total of 10 new employees were needed for the 2nd floor. Moreover, the requirements were slightly higher this time. It was mainly age. The limit was under 40 years old. After all, the 2nd floor deals with all kinds of new things, and young people will accept them more quickly. Chen Mo also wanted to take the opportunity to recruit another secretary. Unfortunately, none of the applicants scored more than 70 points. Chen Mo was a little surprised. Are there no outstanding women in our county? Do I have to go find Su Qingxue myself? I don't believe it. Chen Mo went downstairs, and everyone greeted him with happy faces. Boss. Good morning, boss. All the waitresses on the 2nd floor were there. Chen Mo's reputation is growing, and even the aunties in the supermarket on the 1st floor now call him boss out of respect. Chen Mo opened the elevator on the 2nd floor. No one had ever taken this elevator before, and they were all curious to see it in action. Chen Mo smiled and said, "It's the weekend, so there might be a bit of a crowd." No, no, no. The girls all waved their hands in unison. Yes, Chen Mo is hiring all girls for this recruitment. The ages ranged from 18 to 35, with a full range of young girls to young women. Chen Mo didn't really need girls. The main reason was that the boys who came for the interview were all non-mainstream, and the hairstyles were just not acceptable. Of course, there were also many non-mainstream girls among the girls who came for the interview, and they were all rejected by Chen Mo. As a person who has been there, I really can't appreciate it now. At this time, Suyun walked towards them. Her figure, with a protruding front and a curvy back, could be considered top-notch among mature women. As she walked, every step was graceful. Whether it was men looking enviously or women looking starry-eyed, she was the top of the class among mature women. She came to Chen Mo's side. Everyone is ready. Chen Mo nodded slightly, Then he asked in a low voice, Auntie Sue, have you eaten? Suyun gave a light nod, then walked with her long, slender legs to the front of the door. Open the door. Just as the supermarket door opened, a large crowd of people swarmed in. The flow of people was much higher than when the supermarket had a promotional event. Moreover, because it was the weekend, there were many young people. These were Chen Mo's target audience. Everyone, don't rush, please be careful when getting on the elevator, safety first. Suyun held a loudspeaker and carefully reminded the crowded crowd. At this time, many people's attention was focused on this mature beauty. She had an outstanding air of a strong woman, and her mature and hot figure was hard not to attract people's attention. Li Lu looked at her idol and immediately helped to maintain order. After spending this time with Su Yun, she has become more and more impressed with her way of dealing with people. She now basically regards Su Yun as a model for her future. Su Yun has indeed taught her a lot. The two have a sense of master and apprentice. Chen Mo is happy to see this, and Li Lu's willingness to learn and improve is a good thing. As more and more people arrived, Chen Mo could not help but join in to maintain safety and order. The crowd was a little more than Chen Mo had expected. The second floor had all kinds of new things that no one had seen before, and they were extremely attractive to everyone. "Hello, do you still need to hire anyone here?" A clear and ethereal voice sounded next to Chen Mo. Chen Mo looked over and couldn't help but be slightly stunned. What a clean and refined aura! What a beautiful girl! Her delicate features were flawless, her lips were rosy and her teeth white, and her eyes seemed to be able to speak, overflowing with spirit. The girl's bright, clear eyes looked at Chen Mo with a hint of curiosity. Chen Mo nodded slightly as he looked at her. "What position are you interviewing for?" The girl gave a happy, sweet smile. "I want to interview for the waitress position in the game area on the second floor. Come over here, I'll record your information." Chen Mo led the girl to the GKD next door. At this time, there were quite a few people in the GKD. More and more people have learned about the GKD, especially young people, and many have become loyal customers here. As soon as the girl followed Chen Mo in, she attracted the attention of many young people. She was so clean and pretty that she dazzled. 2 cokes. Chen Mo finished counting the money and gave it to Lin Yu, who was the cashier. "Okay." Lin Yu nodded with a smile. This was to better manage the accounts, and no matter who came to buy, the money had to be counted. Su Yun had set this rule. Chen Mo took the 2 cokes and sat down next to the girl. "Here." "For me?" "No thanks." The girl was surprised for a moment before she declined. Chen Mo didn't force her. "Okay, then tell me a little about yourself." The girl looked at Chen Mo suspiciously and said with a dumbfounded expression, "Are you just interviewing me?" Chen Mo smiled. "Of course, why not?" The girl quickly waved her hands. No. She sat up straight and said quite formally, "Hello boss, my name is Bai Ruwashi, I'm 18 years old, I graduated from high school, and I'm good at studying and playing games." That's about it. Bai Ruwashi? That name seemed familiar. I always feel like I've heard it somewhere. At the same time, Chen Mo's mind was rating Bai Ruwashi. Bai Ruwashi rating: appearance 96, body 94, temperament 97, ability 93, potential 98, overall score 95.6 points. A master level secretary. A master level secretary? Chen Mo was amazed. He didn't expect Bai Ruwashi's rating to be so high. In terms of appearance, her ability score is also not bad at all. Her potential score is an amazing 98 points. She is 2 grades above Su Qingxue. This Bai Ruwashi is definitely not simple. Chapter 19-019 Master Level Treasure Box. You are hired. The position of secretary, 1-month trial period, 2,000 yuan, and 3,000 yuan after conversion. Chen Mo really wanted to pay her more, but was afraid of scaring her. Bai Ruwashi frowned slightly and said, "I'm not interviewing for a secretary, I'm interviewing for a waitress in the second floor games area." Chen Mo smiled and said, "This secretary position of yours is to manage the entire second floor games area." Bai Ruwashi's face immediately lit up with a smile. "Manage the entire second floor games area?" Chen Mo nodded and said, "You like playing games?" Bai Ruwashi coughed lightly and held up a white finger, just a little. Chen Mo smiled and said, "That's fine, it's better if you like playing." Bai Ruwashi blinked her bright eyes. "Well, when can I start?" It seemed that she couldn't wait any longer. Chen Mo pushed the remaining glass of cola in front of her. "You can start now?" Bai Ruwashi looked at the cola, picked it up happily, and gave a sweet smile. "Of course." After she finished speaking, she added with a hint of apology, "Boss, I may only be able to work for 1 month as a summer student." Chen Mo nodded. "Sure, I'll give you the employment contract later. Summer jobs need to be signed as well." Bai Ruwashi readily agreed. "Okay, so I can start working now?" Chen Mo couldn't help but laugh at her excited expression. "I'll take you there." Bai Ruwashi followed Chen Mo around, step for step. At the same time, Su Yun happened to be coming down the stairs from the second floor. She was still holding the loudspeaker to maintain order. "Sister Yun." Chen Mo waved at Su Yun. Su Yun walked over with her long, slender legs, her posture graceful and composed. Every movement she made exuded the charm of a mature woman. What is it, boss? When Soo-yun came down, she noticed the radiant girl next to Chun Mo at first glance. Let me introduce you, this is Soo-yun, my chief secretary, and this is Bai Ruwashi, who is in charge of the secretaries on the second floor. Soo-yun couldn't help but flinch slightly when she heard Chun Mo introduce her as his chief secretary. He hadn't told me about this. Have I been promoted? Hello, Yun, you can call me Xiao Bai or Ruwashi. Bai Ruwashi said politely. Soo-yun smiled and said, you're welcome. Ruwashi, come with me. Bai Ruwashi gave a light nod and quickly followed Soo-yun. Chen Mo looked at the backs of the two top beauties, one big and one small, as they walked upstairs, and a crisp sound appeared in his mind. Ding! Main task completed, hire 3 secretaries, at least silver level. Reward received, 20,000 points, Grandmaster level treasure chest. Open the Grandmaster level treasure chest or not. A Grandmaster level treasure chest. Chen Mo was filled with curiosity at this golden treasure chest. Yes. Chen Mo could only feel a flash of golden light before his eyes. Then came a series of prompts. Congratulations, host, you have received the following rewards: 5 million yuan in cash, the following skills: photographic memory, masterful voice, masterful cooking, and a 100% popularity bonus. Ha! This is a really generous reward. 3 skills, 5 million yuan, and a 100% popularity bonus. The meaning of this 100% popularity bonus is that originally, only 1,000 people might come to the supermarket to shop. But now with this 100% popularity bonus, it will become 2,000 people. This is a bug buff for any merchant. This bonus, combined with the previous 90% popularity bonus from the Soo-yun Master Treasure Box, is a total of 190% popularity bonus. Host, Chen Mo. Age, 18 years old. Education, high school graduate. Physical fitness, 100 points, perfect. Charisma, 6 points, average. Skills, excellent memory, masterful voice, masterful cooking. Fame, 225 titles earned, business rookie. Assets, 6.255 million yuan, ranked 8th in Xinjiang County. Titles earned, millionaire, 10% popularity bonus in business. Business rookie, 3% popularity bonus in business. Secretaries, 3, Bai Ruwashi, Guru level secretary, Soo-yun, master level secretary, and Li Lu, silver level secretary. Has his wealth ranking already reached 8th in the county? Chen Mo couldn't help but sigh. In this day and age, people who can have assets exceeding 1 million yuan are indeed rare. Chen Mo remembered that he still had a side achievement task. Side quest, become the richest person in the county, reward 10,000 points, title, the richest person in Xinjiang County, attribute charm plus 50. Will this charm attribute really work? Can it really increase the friendliness of others towards you? Chen Mo is very eager to experience the effect of this charm value. But the prerequisite is to get the title of the richest person in Xinjiang County. I just don't know who the richest person in Xinjiang County is. How much assets does he have? It is very likely that he has more than 10 million. Just as Chen Mo was thinking, a group of young men and women arrived at GKD. Among them were people Chen Mo knew. The most eye-catching girl was Su Qingxue. There were also a few girls who were close to her. In addition to the girls, there were also a few boys, with Lin Hao as the leader. Lin Hao was the little rich second generation whose family ran a Mercedes-Benz 4S store. According to the current value, this 4S store should have assets of over 10 million. However, I heard that it is not owned by Lin Hao's family alone, but also by other shareholders. I don't know exactly how many people there are. Lin Hao and the others also heard that there is a place to hang out that is very popular recently, and there are delicious burgers. All the students want to come. Once Su Qingxue and the others arrived, they realized that something was wrong. Especially Su Qingxue, Soo-yun had not told her that she worked here at Chen Mo's. So, naturally, she didn't know that Chen Mo had completely transformed the supermarket in the past 2 weeks. Look at the glass wall on the second floor, it looks high-end and stylish. The GKD on the first floor is also a unique presence in this county. This place reveals its difference in every way, revealing the atmosphere that can only be found in big cities. This is very attractive to Su Qingxue, a girl who yearns for the big city. Qingxue, this is the supermarket we came to Chen Mo's house last time, right? The girl next to her looked at the building with a face full of disbelief. Just half a month, is this still the same place? What? This is the supermarket in Chen Mo's house? Lin Hao was full of surprise. Some of his classmates knew that Chen Mo's family ran a supermarket, but most didn't. Some who did knew, but they weren't sure exactly where Chen Mo's supermarket was or how big it was. For example, Lin Hao, a bad seed with a wicked mind. He hadn't managed to get to Chen Mo last time. Instead, Chen Mo had taken him for a ride. That time, her mother scolded him severely, and now he feels not only hostility towards Chen Mo as a romantic rival, but also hatred for being ripped off when selling his car. Is this GKD also owned by Chen Mo's family? I don't know. This store wasn't here last time we came, so it might be owned by someone else? Let's go in and take a look first. I heard the food here is super delicious. Yes, my cousin came here and ate, and she even brought me some fries. Super delicious. Chapter 20:020 No, why should he? Su Qingxue and the others entered the GKD together. They looked around the restaurant curiously. Hello, may I take your order? You can order here. Lin Yu looked at Su Qingxue and the others with a smile. What do you have to eat here? We have everything here, but I recommend our burgers and fries, they're delicious. There's so much, what if we want to eat it all? The girls looked at the menu with a conflicted expression. At this time, Lin Hao waved his hand with an air of generosity. You can order whatever you like, it's on the house. Wow, really? Thank you, Boss Lin. The girl smiled and flattered Lin Hao. Brother Hao is generous, and our brother Hao has plenty of money. The boys didn't forget to flatter him in time either. Lin Hao gave a faint smile and glanced at Su Qingxue. Qingxue, what do you want to eat? I'll have whatever you want. Su Qingxue had other things on her mind at this time. For example, whether this restaurant was actually Chen Mo's family business. Lin Hao knew what Su Qingxue meant as soon as he saw her expression. He had followed his family in the restaurant and had learned a little about reading people's expressions. In fact, he also wanted to know who the owner of the restaurant was, and he felt the same way as Su Qingxue. After everyone had ordered, Lin Hao took out a $100 bill and handed it to the receptionist Lin Yu, asking with a smile. Beauty, who is the owner of this restaurant? Lin Yu's trademark smile could not help but shrink as she asked who the boss was. She was extremely quick-witted, and these people looked about the same age as the boss, Chen Mo. If the relationship was bad, it would be trouble for the boss. Our boss is not here right now. If you have any business, you can talk to me, and when the boss comes, I will let him know. It's nothing. What is your boss's surname? Lin Hao continued to ask, undaunted. Lin Yu at the front desk hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. Our boss is surnamed Chen. Lin Hao's eyes narrowed. Chen? It's Chen Mo, right? I'm really sorry, I don't know what the boss's name is. Could you please move aside, the customers behind you still need to order? Lin Hao and the person at the front desk. Su Qingxue heard it clearly. The boss's surname is Chen. This supermarket belongs to Chen Mo's family. Then this GKD is basically Chen Mo's. It's not really a store owned by Chen Mo's family, is it? Chen Mo can do it. What do you mean Chen Mo can do it? It's as if he opened it. Exactly, I guess her mother opened the store, or that relative opened it. I think the most likely possibility is that she came back from the big city and bought a shop here to open. Well, I think this is a very likely possibility. Lin Hao's disdainful speculation was widely recognized. Okay, let's all eat first. Let's see how it tastes. If it doesn't work, well, his shop. Lin Hao's words were not finished. The girl next to him who had taken a bite of the burger widened her eyes. What's wrong? It's not delicious? The girl shook her head while excitedly pointing at the burger. It's delicious. Everyone opened the packaging and started eating. It really is delicious. Try these fries, they're super delicious. The girls couldn't help but exclaim after tasting the fries. It was the first time they had eaten this food. The freshness and novel taste completely satisfied their needs. Lin Hao didn't know where to find fault with it for a while. After everyone had eaten their fill, they saw the Coke and, out of curiosity, each ordered a glass. They drank their Coke and headed to the second floor of the supermarket. What's there to do on the second floor? I guess it's just the same as in the arcade games and stuff. Lin Hao had seen a bit of the world and had a look of disillusionment on his face. Yeah, what's there to do? Let's just have a look and go. They arrived at the elevator and said, "What's this? An elevator? How do we get up there? You've never been in one before? Just follow me." Lin Hao stepped into the elevator with a familiar look on his face. His body swayed, and he hurriedly grabbed the elevator handrail. The group suppressed their laughter and immediately followed behind. This supermarket actually has an elevator. Wow, look ahead, there's so much fun. As soon as the group took the elevator and saw the things on the second floor, they couldn't help but be dazzled. What a big doll! Wow! There are also small dolls, how fun! And there! Is that a motorcycle? For a moment, everyone was shocked by the game zone full of new and interesting things. The claw machines were surrounded by people. Everyone was even lining up to claw dolls. Su Qingxue and the others were also itching to try it. Buy coins, buy coins. Everyone couldn't wait to take out their own pocket money to buy coins. However, at this time, there were people playing in front of each game machine. For those new and interesting things, you have to queue up if you want to play. But even if you have to queue up, everyone wants to play. The place with the most girls was the claw crane machine. In particular, the big, cute doll was surrounded by people who wanted to try their luck. Just as they were queuing up in front of a claw crane machine, someone saw a familiar figure. Hey, look, isn't that Chen Mo? This immediately attracted the attention of the others. Su Qingxue looked in the direction they were pointing and saw Chen Mo walking with a girl. That girl was very pretty. So pretty that she outshone everyone around her. The girl had a sweet smile on her face, and from time to time she looked at the game consoles around her, her eyes full of longing, wanting to play. But when she looked at Chen Mo, she seemed to be reining in her emotions again, as if she couldn't afford not to play without game coins. It really was Chen Mo. Judging from his appearance, he didn't seem to be the boss here. Indeed, he didn't. The beautiful girl next to him obviously wanted to play, but it seemed like she couldn't afford to. TSK, poor pretty girl, Chen Mo is such a miser that he can't even afford to buy a game coin. Everyone was scolding Chen Mo while feeling sorry for the pretty girl. Lin Hao looked at Chen Mo with a sinister expression in his eyes. He pulled his classmate next to him and signaled him to call him. The classmate froze for a moment, then shouted loudly towards Chen Mo, "Chen Mo! Chen Mo! Over here!" Chen Mo was attracted by the shouting and turned around to find Su Qingxue and Lin Hao. Chen Mo gave a slight smile and walked towards them. Bai Ruoshi didn't pay much attention to it, her attention was on the motorcycle game she had just played. She really wanted to play it, but unfortunately the owner was at work. Chen Mo had just taken her to familiarize herself with the game machines here. She had looked around and wanted to play them all. At this time, she subconsciously followed Chen Mo. "Hey, Chen Mo, you're here playing too, who are you bringing? Luji, why are you here?" This is my friend." Chen Mo glanced at the well-behaved Bai Ruoshi beside him and introduced her. Bai Ruoshi blinked, "Friend?" Her expression was a little dumbfounded. "You brought someone here, why didn't you buy them coins to play? Are you that stingy?" Luji is a big fan of Lin Hao. He knows that Lin Hao hates Chen Mo, not only because the two rivals like Su Qingxue, but also because of the recent car purchase. Luji has heard about it. He understood Lin Hao's meaning just now perfectly. This is the time to embarrass Chen Mo a little. Luji smiled and tossed the coins in his hand. "It can't be that you can't afford the game coins, right?" Everyone else couldn't help but laugh. "Little sister, play with us, I have a lot of coins here, you can play as much as you like." Luji looked at Bai Ruoshi with a lewd smile on his face. At this time, Bai Ruoshi couldn't help but frown. These people were clearly here to bully Chen Mo. And they're tempting me with coins? Bai Ruoshi gave a sweet smile and tilted her head to look at Chen Mo. She said in a clear voice, "Boss, are these your friends? Don't they know you're the boss here?" "Hello, I'm the boss's secretary." Her words instantly froze Luji's smile. Lin Hao, Su Qingxue, and the others were also momentarily stunned. The second floor is actually all Chen Mo's? And such a pretty girl is actually Chen Mo's secretary. No, what does Chen Mo have?